Good morning, everyone. And to those joining us online that you can't see yet, we've got 5 people sitting behind the scenes online who can hear me at the moment, and I feel very sorry for them. Welcome, everybody, and it is great to see everybody face to face again. It's just a reminder at the moment, if you can please put your phones on silent or vibrate, whichever tickles your fancy this morning. If your phone should ring while I'm on stage, or anybody, wow, my England's great this morning. If anybody is on stage speaking and your phone rings, we will hit you with a fine, and that money will go to a nominated charity of our choice. The toilet locations are located out the back door. Mariah's looking at me and I didn't bring my roadmap. I'm going to say, and go left. She's nodding, going, yes, that's the direction we're going to send everybody in. The emergency exits for today, in case of a fire or anything else happens, we will head down the stairs after staff tell us where we're going, head out the front of the building over to the right and down to Davey Street. I learnt that one this morning too. Just want to thank all of the sponsors and exhibitors for joining us this morning. I say all and I'm like, hey, look at you 3 guys go. Thanks for coming down to Tasmania with us. We always enjoy the pleasure of your company. And also we do have some of our sponsors and exhibitors that you can't see yet that are sitting behind the screens because they haven't been able to leave their relevant states. So there's quite a few on the crew that have joined us in the last 12 months. I'm very, very pleased that they're coming along for the journey. Also, a reminder for our members that you can receive 10% off your membership every time you refer a new member into the FBAA. And if anybody is a member of another association, let's face it, there are 2 more out there, they can also join us for free at the moment. And what we do is we match the life of what they've got left with their current association. So they'll come over to us as long as there's a month left and be able to have that matched by us. And then they're able to make an informed choice as to whether they stay with both or 3 or choose one of us. Because let's face it, at the moment, nobody wants to push one over the other. The preference is obviously that they have a look at what we've got for them with the free PD days and free national conference. Also, the new baby, you may have thought you were spammed a few weeks ago by us when we asked you to change your password in the members area on the website. It was a legitimate email. We have changed the website altogether. So we've changed providers and suppliers, and we've recreated the FBAA website into something that is incredibly fantastic. What we do need you to do, though, is follow the instructions. If you haven't already, on change your password, and then that will get you into the new members area. There are a lot of tools still coming off the back of that as well. So there's a new education portal coming, and there'll be new ways to track your CPD going forward. So hopefully that will all be available to you over the next 4 to 6 weeks. I'm just reading all of this. Oh, I've got to give you a further COVID warning. Basically, if you're sick, go home. If you're not sick, great, thanks for joining us. With the coronavirus pandemic, we need to take extra precautions when we are attending FBAA events face-to-face again. Please ensure that you are washing your hands and using hand sanitizer provided around the venue regularly, and you also use utensils provided when dealing with food. If you do feel the slightest bit unwell, please go home and rest up, but also notify one of the FBAA event organisers. Basically, don't come to me, go and see Mariah. Because I don't want to get sick either. The main symptoms outlined by the Australian Government Department of Health are fever, flu-like symptoms such as coughing, sore throat, fatigue and shortness of breath. The FBAA also has a special committee for looking after COVID while it travels around Australia, and they're also monitoring the Australian Health Department for any changes with the virus and continually taking the appropriate level of care. Now, stating the obvious, I'm not Peter White. He couldn't join us today. He is sitting behind the scenes somewhere this morning. Pete is currently in Sydney at the moment with his travels and unable to go home until Saturday. Also, Brett Spencer is locked down in Melbourne, so Brett wasn't able to join us today either. So you're stuck with me. And for those of you that haven't met me yet, my name is Leah Renwick and I'm the East Coast Manager for the FBAA. So I look after everyone from Queensland right down to you guys. And I also look after our national conference for head office as well. The fun stuff. So I'm going to bring up the crew that's sitting behind me at the moment, which is our industry panel of Credit Fix Solutions, ALI, Trailbook Loans. So Surinder will actually join me on stage as the only person on stage. Lend and Affordable Staff, and there's my wonderful crew over on the left-hand side at the moment who can't see me but can hear me. Or they can vaguely see me. So up in the top, we've got Caitlin, we've got Miss Danelle over in what I would class as my far left. It'll be your right. And I've got the, this is where it's going to get confusing for these two this morning. I've got the two Marys on this morning, so one of you needs to change your name, just saying now. So guys, I'm just going to kick straight off with this one this morning. Our industry suppliers are basically the sponsors that sit behind us that have got business tools that you can use every day within your businesses. So welcoming everybody on, and because Surinder's here and because I'm biased because he's here and you're all in your own offices and you didn't care enough to come and play with me. Surinder, you have a microphone next to you, and I would like you to give me a cheeky 30-second sales pitch on what you do and how you do it. The up button, the on button.
Don't start. Hi, Surinder from Trialbook Loans. We're really simple. We lend to mortgage brokers.
Hold it on.
Okay, we'll lend against the trial book for any business purpose. So whether it's acquisition, tax debt, expansion, we don't care. So take a charge over the broker book. We're not like the ANZs of the world who say they lend to mortgage brokers, but really take a first mortgage and a second mortgage to back up their business lending. We just lend against the trail. We have expanded into lending to financial planners. So if you've got referral partners that are planners, we'll lend, sorry, Mariah, we'll lend against the ongoing revenue that they receive and also rent rolls. So we'll lend against ongoing property management, and we don't have any postcode restrictions.
That was quick, cheeky. I like it. I'm going to look at my screen now and go, Miss Caitlin, over to you, your 30-second cheeky sales pitch about affordable stuff and what you're bringing out to our broker network.
Good morning, everybody. Yes, it is Caitlin from Affordable Staff. Unfortunately, locked down in Melbourne, so shame I couldn't be there. But so Affordable Staff are basically here to support brokers get their life back. So we offer virtual teams. Our staff of over 300 working strong from the Philippines are there to support brokers to help them get admin off their desk and help them focus on speaking with more clients.
Cheeky, quick, I like it. Mr. Nell from Lend, I'll get you to give us your cheeky 30-second sales pitch.
Morning, everyone. And I'm not in lockdown in Melbourne, but all of our office is, hence why I'm not allowed to travel. So I wish I was back in my home state. Very quickly, we are a technology platform that connects Australian business owners through their brokers to a range of alternate commercial lenders. So one application form, bank statements, Equifax, a range of products from unsecured all the way through to asset finance, end-to-end deal flow. It's a tech platform to be on if you're not sure where a deal goes. We hold your hand through technology.
And Mary from ALI, I'll get you to come in with your cheeky 30-second sales pitch about what ALI delivers to the broker network.
Hi, everyone. I wish I was there with you. Do I wish I was there with you instead of Melbourne at the moment? But anyway, it is what it is. So our mission here at ALI Group is to protect home and property buyers from financial hardship, which we do through a product called a Buy Protection Plan. We are market leaders. We do have amazing, I guess, online broker portals. So the process is really easy. It's simple for both the broker and the client. And it's fantastic because you guys can earn a little bit of extra income along the way for doing the right thing for your clients. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
And Mary from Credit Fix Solutions, over to you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I wish I was there too instead of Victoria, but anyway, I'm the BDM for Credit Fix Solutions. What we do and what I do in particular is I work very closely with my brokers to fix any credit impairments a customer may have on their credit report. We are a no result, no fee. So if we promise to do something, as in remove a default or a judgment, and we're not able to do this, we don't charge any fees. By using our service, what it does for your client, it actually fixes their credit report and also increases their credit score to give them more opportunities to borrow money.
So I'll start this time with Caitlin. Could you, for the room, describe your typical client in today's market?
Brokers who are doing it all, basically. So I'm typically speaking with a lot of like sole operators or small offices who are working 16-hour days trying to process everything into a plan line, all their CRMs, who are also not able to focus their attention on their personal life as well too, which may be causing some issues. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Everybody's busy, so you know, we're busy too.
And Danelle, the typical client for the lend environment.
Yeah, thanks, Leah. Look, at the moment, our typical client is are actually residential mortgage brokers, so who are looking to hold on to those clients and not tick and flick their commercial deals anymore, but are not really sure where they should be placed or where they can go. So typically 90% of our volume transacted on our platform is done through our brokers.
And Mary, ALI?
Well, we deal with all brokers, but our typical client that brokers deal with would be your first home buyers, your mums and dads, your young families, your young couples. But we do have a very, very varied client base in regards to who takes our policies. We do find that the clients that you think won't take it are the ones that will. And the ones that you think should have it are the ones that probably will say, no, thank you very much. So it's anywhere from your 20s right through to your 50-year-olds and beyond. And obviously all brokers, we deal with all brokers, which is fantastic, but we do have I guess a niche market that I've actually just covered. So it's the reason why it's important that all clients are actually covered and all brokers are having the conversation is purely because we actually don't, I guess, necessarily have one client or one age bracket that is specifically best for our product. So it's varied. We look after everyone of all ages.
And Mary, Credit Fix Solutions.
Yes, basically our clientele is anyone who seeks to borrow money, whether you're an individual or an entity company. You know, whenever you need to conduct a credit report and lend money to that person, we do it all.
And I nearly forgot you were sitting there.
You can, that's fine.
Hey, Serena. What's your typical client in today's market?
Mortgage brokers, as in you guys personally.
That was short and sweet. Self-explanatory, really.
Been called worse.
Well, you know. So just checking with the changes and obviously what happened with COVID, and I'll start with you, Serena, because you're here and I won't forget you're here this time. How's that changed how you've done business?
We rolled out a lot of automation through COVID. We're only a small business, so being on the road pre-COVID didn't allow for a lot of development work. Being locked down under Comrade Mark McGowan in Perth meant we were literally closed until December, could not even get out of the state. So we put a lot of time and effort into development where we're now fully automated online as per, I hate the word fintech, but we are completely online automated, and that's the biggest thing that we got out of COVID was being able to actually focus internally on the business rather than being on planes all the time.
And has it changed the way that you've done lending on your particular portfolio?
It has. I haven't looked at a deal in 12 months because the credit team actually just do it because it comes in, it's scorecards, it gets done.
Perfect. Miss Caitlin, up to you. Is there any changes that COVID has created within your business, and what do those changes mean for brokers today?
We actually have been operating really business as usual throughout the last 18 months, which is really great. A lot of outsourcing providers had a lot of challenges based on their locations, but we have maintained consistent service throughout the year, continued to recruit, bring on new clients, new VAs. I think for the most part, we're just busy. Really busy. And so as a result, there is a little bit of a longer lead time to wait to get a staff member, but I promise it is worth the wait. Outside of that, yeah, we're just continuing to provide a great service and have some pretty happy clients as a result.
We like this. I'm going to change now and go down to Mary from ALI. For you, has COVID changed the way that ALI does business? And what do those changes mean for today's broker?
Yes, definitely. And we've seen changes nationally within our own business. And it's interesting because it's not one size fits all. We've found that some states are running business as usual. So COVID hasn't had an impact on a lot of states. In Victoria, obviously, it's a really different story. So yes, brokers are predominantly doing a lot of things remotely now. I think with the DocuSign and eDocs, it's changed the way of, I guess, us working with brokers and obviously building our process into their loan offering. So they've had to adapt to a remote way of doing things, and we've also had to adapt and I guess that lovely word pivot we've had to pivot, obviously, and also adapt to the way of going remote. We've always had a bit of we've had an online portal, so it's always been online. It's just now working very closely with our brokers to better embed our offering into their loan offering.
So Mary, you and I were friends until you used that word pivot.
Oh, sorry, Giles.
It was like the most overused word in 2020, but I'll forgive you for it today.
I promise I won't use it again.
Changing over to Mary at Credit Fix Solutions, has COVID changed the way that you guys have done business? And if so, what do those changes mean for today's broker?
Yes, absolutely. And don't kill me for this, but what COVID has done for us is brokers are paying more attention to comprehensive credit reporting. So I get really excited when there's just a vast difference and a huge interest in this. And I have got the opportunity to teach my brokers what the comprehensive credit report means, how to read it, and, you know, the implications it has on a loan application form. So it's very exciting. There's just a massive interest in that.
I think one of the other things we've learned doing this tour with Credit Fix Solutions at the moment as well, a big thing that happened during COVID was Afterpay. And obviously
Absolutely.
a lot of, not just Afterpay itself, but the buy it now and pay it later systems. And through COVID, we learnt with credit scores, especially, we obviously all seen the ads that came on TV. Domino's said, hey, you can buy a pizza on Afterpay.
Absolutely.
It changes people's credit scores up to 70 points.
Yep,
And
absolutely.
there's not enough awareness out there, I think, for the consumer that while they think, although Afterpay is the lesser of the evils, but while they think it's a great idea to get things on the Afterpay systems and the buy now, pay later with Zip Pay and everything else, how much damage that can actually do to a credit file, because you get 2 different Afterpays and then go and apply for a car loan, you've just blown your credit score for 12 months. So it is quite a scary time, especially if people don't understand the credit scoring side of things and how that actually was impacted during COVID as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that's where we step in and, you know, provide education around all that, you know, being able to identify what the problems can look like on a credit report and how to fix it, I guess.
Perfect. Mr. Nell, up in my top corner. How has COVID changed how Len does business? And if so, what do those changes mean for today's broker?
Absolutely. It changed the way we did business, Leah. And Surinder, I definitely love the point you made. I love a fintech that's all about fin and has no tech. And so, yes, very pleased that certainly you as one have invested in technology over that time, because it certainly has a big impact on the end user. Leah, you know, for 6 months, it was really hard for Lend. You know, whilst we were still transacting, there were lots of approvals. Clients were scared to pull the trigger and sign loan documents. Lenders were changing criteria. And really that unsecured bucket didn't become, you know, we didn't want to become a one flavoured ice cream platform. So we expanded our products out so you can get lots of different flavours now. And so we cover, you know, you'll hear from the guys from Cam at Strive today in private lending, you know, your Prospers, your Finstrays in the unsecured space. We're about to launch our asset finance platform, which is going to be an absolute game changer. So we've really had to expand our product selection. And secondly, probably one of the initiatives that I'm most proud of is our education series. So that's been strongly supported by the FBAA and is awarded CPD points. And it really is about expanding that knowledge, upskilling, uplifting brokers to hold on to that business. It's so very important. And, you know, if the bank says no, there's a lot of options out there, and our system needs to help you guide your client that way.
Awesome answers. So I'm going to change things up a little bit, because you lot aren't up on my screen, aren't Tasmania, and we're here, we're in Hobart, let's face it. Mary, Credit Fix Solutions, I'm going to start with you. Can you tell me one thing you like about Tasmania?
I actually like the scenery. I actually like the water, and I like, I like the way, you know, the feel. It's got a really kind of country, is that fair to say? I hope I haven't offended anyone.
I'm kind of looking at the room going, could we call Tasmania country? There's a lot of concerned faces in the room at the moment. I don't think you could call it country. Maybe
well, you know, that country feel, you know, that laid back. That's what I'm talking about.
So Tasmanians are laid back then. Donnie's trying not to laugh in the top corner.
I reckon
and that's only because she's a Tasmanian. So Mary, ALI, favourite thing about Tasmania?
Oh, without a doubt, it would have to be my beautiful brokers in Tassie, along with the beautiful scenery over there. And I am a little bit like Mary. I actually love coming over there. and spending time with brokers. They are probably, if I could clone them all and bring them to Victoria, I would be more than happy, but I don't think they'd be happy if they were coming to Vic. So brokers, by far, the people are beautiful. And yes, it is a beautiful part of the world. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you all eventually.
I love it when BDM's cruel to people. It's really cool. Danelle, you're a Tasmanian by heart. So what is it other than family that you like about coming down to Tasmania?
Oh, look, you know, and it's what I always sell to Queenslanders, because there's lots of people travelling to Tassie on holidays, which is fabulous. So for me, it's the food. Just all the beautiful fresh produce that you can get down at the Huon Valley, the beautiful seafood, the great cheeses. I just think that it's something that Tassie does really well and super proud of.
Miss Caitlin?
This may be a little bit polarizing, especially for those in Hobart, but I am a huge Dark Mofo fan. So I've been able to come and explore the weird and wonderful dark nooks and crannies of the city over a couple of years. Disappointed that I won't be able to make it this year, but coming in second close would be Bruny Island cheese for sure.
Lovely. Surinder, what do you like about Tassie?
What was that whiskey joint last night?
Oh, Mac 1 whiskey bar.
Yeah, whiskey bar at Mac 1.
Yeah. Why did you have to bring that up now? Why? They're going to think we're alcoholics. Yeah, shoe fits. And look, for me, I think it is the seafood down here. That's one thing I do love about coming to Tassie, and especially into Hobart. For you guys have some incredible seafood down here. So it is beautiful to come down here. It's a little bit cold for a Queenslander, but look, you know, if it pays, the whiskey bar was good, but I think the seafood last night was definitely better for me. So cool things about Tassie, and I just like to completely tangent things away from the serious world of work. Guys, I want to go up to the aggregation question, the one thing we all love in life. Do people or brokers need to get permission from their aggregator to use your services, Surinder?
You don't need permission because you're lending yourself, obviously. But we've got agreements with every aggregator that we want to have agreements with. When I say that, the ones that we don't are Aussie and Mortgage Choice, because those brokers don't own their trail, so I ain't lending to them. So we've got agreements in place with every aggregator. So, you know, it's more getting approved, and then we send the paperwork off to the aggregator.
Miss Caitlin?
100%, without a doubt, especially given that, you know, we are handling a lot of client-sensitive data. It is imperative that you receive approval from your aggregator. We are working with most aggregators around Australia regardless, and we've not had any compliance or concerns from any of them thus far, which is excellent.
Danelle?
Absolutely. Just to echo Caitlin, we've been very fortunate to be supported by a lot of the aggregators. It is a commercial only finance platform. We will never turn a broker away who's looking for help or support, but please just check in with your state managers.
Mary ALI?
Like most of the others, actually, no, they don't need to get permission to use ALI. We do sit on most aggregator panels anyway, and those that we don't, brokers are more than welcome to come direct to us and have direct agreements, but otherwise we do sit on most panels. And if anyone is interested in becoming authorised, you can just jump on the ALI group website and register you're interested in and go from there.
And Mary, Credit Fix Solutions?
Yes, no, you don't have to be. We're an add-on value to your business, so you can deal with us directly, and yeah, you don't have to get permission from your aggregator.
So into a technical world at the moment, Caitlin, I'll start out with you. Are you the type of service that just needs a client's name and number, or do you go through the whole application process?
Well, I don't need any of your clients' details in order to work with you, but what I do need is to spend some time, sit down and understand your business needs. We are very consultative in our approach. Not every business is the same, and we may have to do special recruitment for you or look for some special skills along the way. So we also recommend that if you're looking at outsourcing, give yourself at least, at a minimum, I'd say 4 months, maybe even 6. It's important to research all the providers and pick which one is right for you. And then obviously there's a bit of a wait time to actually get you going.
And Caitlin, we were saying with your teams that are based overseas as well, it's not, if I get somebody that technically is going to become my right hand, they're not my right hand and 10 other brokers' right hands. They'll service me, they work within my aggregator. And we were saying, I think it was up in Queensland, that they're actual in-team pods over there. So the teams that they work with, say, using it as an example here, if you were an outsourced broker, that particular loan writer over in Manila is in a pod with outsourced brokers. They don't actually cross over into other aggregation networks. There's a door between them and a different card that's needed to get into each room. So it's not like they'll be seeing everybody else's files, and it's not like they're cross-trained against other aggregators either, unless they want to change teams at some point in life. So I think that's a bonus for your team as well, that once they know a product, they really are deep in that product and they're only working for you. They're not working for 10 other people behind you. So that's about roundabout right with where you're at.
Roundabout right, correct. We're 100% dedicated. It's basically like you're hiring your own staff member. However, they work in a different office and they are tax deductible as well too. Just to correct you slightly there, Leah, we're not in Manila, which has actually been the best part of the last 18 months for us. We are in a smaller city called Bacolod, which is away from the major BPOs, which has worked really well.
It's helped with staff healthiness over there. Mr. Nell, for your side of things at the moment, so are you a one-stop shop where a broker just gives you a name and a number, or are we talking full application form? Or are we talking multiple application forms?
All right, there's 3 answers in there, so I'll try and get them out nice and quickly. One, you can actually do both. It's like anything, though, Leah, that we see in the resi space with our resi brokers. The more a deal is put together, and at 100% when you submit it, the better chance you have of getting, one, a quick answer, but also, secondly, an approval. We have a one application facility. So, you may be a Prosper fan and you may speak to Lee about deals, but at the end of the day, Prosper can't write every deal that's in the market. So what happens then? You would typically log into another platform with another password, with another application form, and possibly another bank statement capture. So the beauty of the Lend platform is that it's one application form can give you access to over 40 lenders. The bank statements that are captured through Illion, which a lot of you use, most resi brokers will use Cash Deck, but Illion is part of the Lend platform. So you get lots of analysis on your client for that advisory piece if you're playing in that space. So really it's up to you. We can match based on an answer to 8 questions. But if you actually do the full application and submit with the bank statements, then funds are likely to turn around in 48 hours within most product types.
Perfect. Mary from ALI.
Thank you. No, we're not a tick and flick or a referral option. Our brokers are actually authorised representatives under our licence, which means that there is obviously initial training and ongoing training and compliance requirements that we do need to cover off with our clients. And to be honest with you, the client or the broker is actually best placed to have the conversation about risk with clients. They've got the relationship, they've built the trust. It's a really, really personal conversation. So they really, really are best placed to have those insurance conversations. And we really want the insurance piece to be something that is synonymous with mortgages, and they just go hand in hand. So there's no tick and flick. They have to actually have the conversation, complete the application all online, so through the broker portal, and then submit electronically. So yeah, we don't sit in that tick and flick space.
And I know, and we've said this in other states as well, the one thing I'm glad of is that my broker had the insurance conversation with me. 12 months ago, almost to the day, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So COVID was the gift that just kept on giving last year. But I know that if I didn't have my insurances in place during all of that, I'd be sitting on stage in front of you, probably bankrupt. But looking at the bills that I've had through, I'd be $130,000 out of pocket. So although it seems like a hard conversation to have with your clients, it is such an important conversation to have with your clients too, regardless of what their age are. We've had a great conversation with the team at ALI about age limits and how they're changing around the world at the moment. I know for breast cancer, when I was in hospital, the stats sit at 1 in 6 people in your life will be diagnosed with a form of breast cancer. We went down the path of talking with prostate cancer and things like that for men as well. And the strike rates are alarming, but I think, and I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, I think a lot of people don't realise having that insurance conversation, especially at a younger age coming forward, these are the battles that they're going to have to face growing up. And you'd rather know that your clients walked away with some sort of insurance sitting behind them than not having anything. And especially if they've got a young family, because we're starting to see more and more of it come through the ranks now as well. And that's where the team at ALI has been fantastic. And, you know, you've made some product modifications as well in that realm with not having to have medicals and things like that done. So do you just want to quickly go down that path with those particular changes that you've made from ALI's point of view to make it a bit easier for people?
Yep, so we have enhanced the product and that just happened this year with a change of insurer. So yes, obviously there are some pre-existing medical conditions that we can't cover, but there will now be also some pre-existing exclusions or conditions that we can now cover depending on how long ago they were diagnosed. So as an example, in the last 5 years, if you've been obviously, you know, as an example, we'll use cancer-free for over 5 years and there's no ongoing treatment or you're not specifically actively seeking treatment or medication, it would now be covered, whereas previously it would not have been covered. We've also expanded the coverage around heart problems and cancer. So we've, you know, our product, that's where most of our claims actually do come from or sit in. And I think we've all been touched, whether it's personally or, you know, it's our family members or friends. We all know someone that's actually been touched by predominantly cancer and heart attack. And I think, Lee, you are right. We are seeing a lot of our claims now coming from younger people, unfortunately. And I think that's a stigma that we need to sort of get out there with our brokers and their clients, is that illness doesn't discriminate, and it can happen to anybody at any age. And like you, I've been pretty lucky that I had a health scare 10 years ago. Thankfully, everything's okay. But I'm very passionate about this. And I think as the group at ALI are, we're very passionate about what we do, because this actually makes a difference to someone's life if something goes pear-shaped. So hence the reason we do what we do. Perfect.
Mary, Credit Fix Solutions, over on your side.
That was really insightful. Thank you, Mary. Now, going to my subject. So what I do with my brokers is, you know, they normally email me a copy of the credit report. I take a look at it and give my broker my recommendation. And the reason why we do that is because, you know, we've got a 90% strike rate. So if I feel that it is an application, I do take on board the customer. We do talk to them personally, and we do get them to complete an application form. So basically, you know, we work closely with the customer. We inform the broker with weekly updates, and, you know, once our job is complete, I guess it's a green light for the broker to do their thing at their end.
Awesome. So guys, that's probably the formal side of what we're doing today. I do want to wrap it up though with a bit of a strange question for you. What would be, I'm going to start with you on this side, your best memory, not your worst, of 2020? Surinder.
Laughing again.
It's a bit of an odd one. Laughing again. That's your best memory of 2020.
Yeah. Being locked down and realizing that the world is imperfect was an eye-opener, and then all of a sudden you go, life is short. Shit can happen. Have fun.
Yep. I've got to agree with that one. Miss Caitlin, best memory of 2020?
Probably being able to shake my hips and boogie again on a dance floor in November after quite a significant period of lockdown and torment.
Here I was thinking you were going to say it was getting your new kitten.
Oh, that too. Yeah, he's not a kitten anymore.
Mr. Nell, I think we all got pets during COVID. Mr. Nell, your best memory of 2020?
Oh, look, mine's double-edged. So I spoke a little bit about this in Perth last week. So I became an empty nester in November, and I thought I was going to hate it, but I absolutely love it. Everything is in its place when I get home from work. The dishwasher is emptied. It's amazing. But the great thing that I had pre that was what we called in our house was ISO Fridays. So my husband and I, my son and his girlfriend, every Friday night, I felt like I was 22 again. We had flashing Christmas lights on a Friday night in our lounge room. So we got to spend a lot of quality time before he flew the nest.
Awesome. And Mary, ALI, best memory of 2020?
Coming out of lockdown for the first time, seeing everyone face to face, catching up with family, friends, being able to actually catch up and sit with people and have a drink and have a meal. And yeah, that's probably been the most important thing. And I think you're right, having a laugh and not taking life so seriously, I think, because yeah, life throws curveballs and yeah, some of them are not so good. And I think some of us more than others have experienced lockdown way too much and can't wait to go back and sit with people and have a drink, to be honest. Looking forward to it again.
6 days in and the Melbourners sound like they're a little bit itchy to get out of ISO already. Mary, Credit Fix Solutions.
Yes, hi. This is on a very personal level. I've got my son that plays soccer in Germany, and he actually got COVID last year. Sorry, I'm getting a bit emotional. So that was, you know, having an insight of what COVID is and, you know, the impact that it has, and, you know, I guess having someone so closely go through it was, yeah, it was interesting.
And I think for any parent, it's difficult because you can't be there as well. So
absolutely, yeah.
Mine's the opposite of where that is. Through my journey, I got to spend 5 weeks with my mum, and most kids won't actually sit and go, it was really cool to spend 5 weeks with my mum. I flew New South Wales 11 years ago, and Mum and I will get the occasional weekend together, but it's probably the first time in that 10 years I've actually had 5 weeks alone without my sister there with my mum. So it was kind of cool just to sort of hang out and reconnect with her as well. So I think for all intent and purposes with COVID, we all walked away learning something from it, and we're still learning now. If anything, as much as it is a bastard of a disease, and it's the only way, or bastard of a virus, it's the only way we can call it, we've learned so much about ourselves during that time as well. And we've learned, I suppose, as Australians as well, that we are incredibly resilient people. And it's something I'd be proud of. And I've got to be, you know, incredibly proud of my fellow Australians with the way that we've handled it. Lockdowns or not, and we all know that we go a little bit batty with the lockdowns. We, as normal human beings, we've all supported each other through it, and things could be a lot worse. I mean, we could be the Indias, we could be the Americas, and we're not. We've come through it because we all followed the rule book we were given. So I think everybody in the room deserves a round of applause for each other on that one, because it's a huge feat to get to where we are and have the rest of the world stand back and look at what we're doing. So I think that's cool. But guys, from me in here and you over there, and sorry, Melbourne, we're going to tell you can get offline, or you can sit and listen to us talk all day. But enjoy isolation, Melbourne. From what I'm hearing, you're about to have a media announcement in the next 24 hours about what's about to happen to you. We won't tell them, although they can hear me. It looks like it's going to be 2 to 4 weeks for them, not the 6 days that they've just done. But they are in for a hell of a time down there, but just know that our support's with you as well. For the room as well, if you do have BDMs that are based in Victoria, just check in on them. Even if you just make a phone call to say, hi, how you going? I know the big thing is BDMs ringing and checking on you guys, but at the moment, it does take a toll on your mental health being in isolation. And your BDMs are there to support you as much as we know that you guys need to support them. So even if you send them a cheeky email or send them something funny, because everybody needs a good laugh here and there, but just check in, pick up the phone and just say hi and see how they're going. And I'm sure you'll get a few laughs out of them along the way about what they're going through at the moment. So guys, I'll let you log off. Have a fantastic day around the east coast of Australia. Keep smiling, and I will speak to you shortly. As for you, you can get off my stage.
Get vaccinated.
Yep. Well, I'm not going to sit here and say that either, because, you know, I can't. I'm
I have been
legally bound not to say it. I have to get vaccinated. I kind of like sitting on the chair today. This is kind of cool. I don't want to stand up, so I'm going to sit here and do the next bit. All right, you log off. I don't like you that much anymore. Bye. See yous. That was 3 times I told him to log off. Everybody can follow instructions, right? Oh, no, there we go. We're changing back over into us. So guys, unfortunately, Renee Blethen, who's a National Partnership Manager and Major Support Network. Wow, she's got a big title at Suncorp. Couldn't be here today. She does have a mental health update to provide all of us, conveniently so, in lockdown with COVID. Building futures and protecting what matters is not only Suncorp's purpose, but has also been their focus for over 100 years. It is based on a strong conviction of building a sustainable and responsible financial services group that helps their communities to prosper. As strong supporters of brokers with over 25 years of sustained channel commitment, Suncorp considers the wellbeing of brokers a priority and therefore pleased to be working in partnership with the FBAA to bring awareness and support to these matters. I have to turn the page over now. I can only do this with one hand. Oh, look at that. What I'm going to do now is hand over to Mariah back. She's going to pop on a video because Renee's going to try and join us from behind the scenes with a little bit of an update now as where they sit and what's happening with the Suncorp Short program.
Hello, everyone. Before we get started with today's session, I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting today. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you for that very kind introduction. It's our absolute pleasure to be the wellness partner for the FBAA, and the opportunity to talk to you today is something that we feel very proud to be able to do. So you heard in our introduction that our purpose as an organisation is to build futures and protect what matters, and today's session for us as an organisation is about demonstrating how we are supporting you in our broker community to build your future and protect what matters to you, which is you and your family. So we're going to be talking about a few different things. We're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to talk a little bit about stress. The most important thing that we're going to talk to you about today is what are we doing as an organisation in partnership with the FBAA to help you and your families with anything that you might be experiencing in that space. So as we kick off and get started, what we thought we'd like to do is actually spend a little bit of time talking about mental health and what does it actually mean? When we talk about mental health, what are we talking about? So mental health, as defined by the World Health Organization, is a state of well-being in which the individual, that's each of you in this room, realises his or her own abilities, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. It affects how we think, feel, and act, and it also helps determine how we handle stress, relate to others, and make choices. Mental health is a state of overall well-being. It generally relates to enjoyment of life and having the ability to cope with and bounce back from stress and sadness. Now, I wanted to spend a moment talking to you about why I'm passionate about this as an organisation. So I grew up I was born in the 70s, and I'm one of 4 children, had a very close family upbringing, and my dad used to play Aussie rules football. He was very tough. He was very strict and sort of was the real guide when it came to how we as a family, what our sort of family life was like. And what I learnt from my dad was when things get tough, you just get tougher, and there's will and determination and grit, and that will get you through. And it doesn't mean that his view was wrong. That was his view for his life and the things that happened for him, and that helped him when he was playing football. Through my own personal experience, what I found was that when it comes to mental health, it's not actually about that. And sometimes that will and determination isn't actually what you need. And that certainly wasn't the case for me and the people close to me at some times in my life. And the reason that I'm passionate about raising awareness for mental health and actually doing something to help people around me when it comes to mental health was because of what I've learned and the commonality and frequency of which mental illness can actually occur in everyday life. And this statistic that's on screen at the moment is quite startling. So some of you may have seen this before through the various events that Peter and the team have put on around mental health, but 20% of Australians will experience a mental health illness in any one year. That's 1 in 5 Australians. And if you look around the room you're in today, that's 1 in 5 of the people around you. And I find that quite startling. So what do we talk about with mental illness? So mental illness can be a wide range of conditions that affect your mood, your thinking and your behaviour. And what does that actually mean? So mental illness can be a range, and I'm certainly not an expert, the purpose of today's session is just to share some basic information and some tools to help you in whatever's you're experiencing in your life, but what those around you might be experiencing. So some of the things to look out for are you or your family members having trouble sleeping? Are you experiencing nervousness or anxiety or worry? Feeling down, have reduced energy, or are you being super critical of yourself and others? So how do we know how do we check in on our wellbeing? How do we know what our wellbeing is and when's the right time? One of the great tools that's available to you as part of the program we have with the FBAA with Assure. Assure is the Suncorp Employee Assistance Program, and they are the providers of the confidential counselling program that is available to you. One of the fantastic tools that is available is a wellbeing and stress checklist. And some of the things to just sort of think about in that is noticing in yourself or others, there are a sudden shift in performance or quality of work, absence from work, loss of a sense of humour, becoming aggressive or irritable, difficulty making decisions, or a lack of interest in work, a higher level of conflict, and setting unrealistic standards. So it's really when you're in a space where you're starting to experience a lot of tension and conflict and resistance, that is often a sign that things just aren't quite in balance. So why is this important? And you know, what else can we share with you? Well, the view that we have is that looking after your own mental health and reaching out to others around you isn't selfish. It's actually the best thing you can do for yourself. And in the financial services industry, we all work in an extremely stressful environment the majority of the time, and that could be as a result of you've got clients purchasing properties, or you have a range of things going on in your business, and often we're at a very high level of stress on every single day. I just want to spend a minute talking to you about the impact that stress can actually have on you from a physical aspect and how that plays into mental health. So when we experience stress, our bodies create stress-related hormones. You might have heard of this. So there's adrenaline and there's cortisol. And that helps us move into a state of fight or flight. It's part of how we are made, and it's part of how our body copes with life and death matters. At the same time, what our body does is it reduces the production of endorphins, and they are the neurotransmitters that are needed to protect us from infection. The reason I'm talking about this is that when it comes to stress, stress for us many years ago used to be fighting for our life and fighting for survival. Stress in today's world has become things like an urgent settlement where a customer might be at risk of losing a deposit, or an urgent settlement that's not going to go through and you potentially lose the transaction. The impact of that event actually has the same physical impact of what I just talked about with those hormones, which means that you're putting your immune system under pressure, and your body is actually functioning with different hormones, which then changes the way that you think and operate. And whilst you might feel like it's okay, because that's the job that we do and we serve customers, it can actually have a long-term impact for you if you're not aware of it, and if you don't take some action to support yourself from an overall health and wellbeing aspect. So what are the sorts of things that we can do that are available and freely available at no cost? Well, sleep is really important. One of the statistics that really surprised me around sleep is the difference between getting 5 hours sleep and 7.5 hours sleep. So the difference between those two, when we sleep, there's a couple of things that happen. I mean, there's lots that happen actually, but there's a couple of things that I'll point out. One is that sleep helps learning and memory. It helps you process your emotions, and it can actually give you a mood boost. It makes sure you have a healthier heart. The other thing that happens is when you're sleeping, your body produces something called killer cells, and killer cells are what help your immune system fight viruses. Now, the difference between getting 5 hours sleep and 7.5 hours sleep, your body actually produces 50 to 60% more killer cells when you get 7.5 hours sleep. that alone, I think, is a compelling enough reason to try and make sure that you get a solid night's sleep as much as possible, apart from the other effects that sleep can actually have on you. The other things you may have heard about are nutrition, connecting. So as you are at this event today, you're doing a fantastic thing for your mental health and well-being by connecting with others and having conversations and sharing a laugh and connecting with other human beings. Physical activity, being kind, there are spiritual practices, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to invite you to do an exercise with me. And the reason we're doing this is that we want to show you how easy it is to take a moment within your day and to release some stress that's built up into your muscles, and also do something that activates what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And that's the nervous system that calms and restores your body, and it cancels out that fight-flight mode, and it rebalances your body back to a normal sort of state. So I'm going to invite you to please sit on your chair with your back straight on the back of the chair, feet on the floor and hands on your knees. We're going to walk you through an exercise that's going to take just 1 to 2 minutes. And I invite you to join me in this. There should be a couple of people on stage who are actually going to walk through this as I guide, because doing this by video, it's not as easy to do it in person. So I'm going to take my time with the instruction. We're going to do a breathing exercise that involves also moving your head, neck and shoulders. So if anyone has any permanent injuries there, please don't participate or just take it slowly. It's a very slow exercise. And I invite you now to take one big deep breath in and a deep breath out, and just settle into that position. Now, what I'm going to do is guide you to ease your head downwards. And as you do that, we're going to breathe out. So take a deep breath in and ease your head downwards. And as you do that, breathe out. Now bring your head back up to an upright position, breathing in. Turn your head to the right, and as you do so, breathe out. Bring your head back to center. Turn your head to the left side and breathe in. And bring your head back to center and breathe out. I'm just going to repeat that one more time. So take a deep breath in. Turn your head to the right, and as you do that, breathe out. Bring your head back to the middle. Naturally breathe in. Turn your head to the left. And as you do that, breathe out. And now bring your head back to center. Now what we're going to do is a little movement with our shoulders. So I'll ask you to breathe in. Gently lift your right shoulder up. Bring it forward. Lift it up. And ease it back, and breathe out as you do so. So we'll do that again. So lift our shoulder up, bring it forward, lift it back, and breathe out. Gently lift your shoulder up again, bring it forward, lift it up, and ease it back. Take a deep breath out. Now we're going to do the left-hand side. So if we lift our shoulder up, bring it forward, lift it up, and breathe out as you ease it back. Do that again. So bring it up, lift it forward, roll it back, and as you do so, take a big deep breath out. And we'll do that one more time. Lift it forward, back, and center back, and take one more deep breath in, and a deep breath out. So I'm just going to take a moment to thank our participants for guiding you through that. I hope that worked okay. And I just want to talk you through what we actually did just then. So what we did then by doing that breathing, that was a combination of a breathing and a mindfulness exercise. It was mindfulness because we were focusing on our breath and we were focusing on movement. And that is as simple as it gets for being able to do a mindfulness activity. The movement, what that did was just alleviate a little bit of stress and tension that's built up in your shoulders. So what you're doing there is moving around the energy, but also activating that parasympathetic nervous system where it brings you back to a calming and restorative state. That's how simple it is to take a moment and give yourself a bit of a boost during the day. This page on the screen now just talks to what are some other things that you can do to help your mental health and well-being. And our partners from Assure have some great information on all of these topics available on the website. And you can access this via the FBAA website and your member page. So we've got mindfulness and meditation, finding our strengths and using them. And this is about understanding where are your strengths within you as a person and how do you tap into those more to have a different level of energy with the things that you need to get done in your day. Finding flow. This is an activity where you get quite absorbed and lost in the thing that you're doing. And this often comes to people when they're doing something that they love, like a hobby. And that could be sewing, it could be fishing, it could be reading a book, it could be writing. There's a range of different things. But if you look at kids around you and they get totally absorbed in colouring in or painting or riding their bikes, it's that kind of activity where time just escapes. And that flow state is where you are able to just give your mind a rest and give your body a chance to recuperate. And it just helps you find some clarity and a way to make better decisions because you've got a clear focus. Some other exercises are yoga, and yoga is very good because, again, it's that parasympathetic nervous system. A gratitude practice, which is as simple as finding three things that you're grateful about in your everyday. And those lifestyle choices that I talked about when it comes to sleep and movement and eating well. Now, that was just some things to get you started and to give you some information about and some things to think about in terms of for those around you who may need some support and assistance and what are the signs to look out for. I just want to show you the contact details for the Assure program, which is the confidential counselling program available to all FBAA brokers and their families. It gives you access to 4 free counselling sessions with a qualified psychologist. The program is confidential. We have no oversight of your details at all. And the easy way to access it is by phone. You can contact the FBAA or you can contact Assure directly. And all you need to do is give them your FBAA broker code. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your attention. I hope that what we've covered gives you some insight into some things that you might like to try in your own day, and please have a chat to the Suncorp team who are at the event today about the program if you've got any questions. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Renee. And just highlight, in fact, Suncorp unfortunately couldn't make it today because they're stuck in Victoria in lockdown. So you can talk to any of us. The big thing I'll highlight while the numbers are up there on the screen at the moment, Assure obviously has come into the FBAA through Suncorp, and mental health, as we said before, is such an important thing to focus on. So our members and their immediate families will get free access to it, to the 4 sessions. And that is available for you to pass on to your family members as well. So it's not something that's just exclusive to an FBAA broker, because there's a bigger world out there than just us. So we are very proud of our relationship with Suncorp and obviously what they've brought to the table with Assured as well. So it's something to consider. It's something to have a look at. We don't get any reports. So if you do contact them, we don't see anything. We don't see a name or a number. We get a report every month to say 1 or 2 brokers have contacted through there. So we have an industry standard or a set number that sits behind us. So we can say, okay, you know, if 9,000 brokers contacted Assure in 1 month, we've got a bloody industry problem. But it just gives us a good indication from industry as to what's happening out there. And we're never told the updates of what happens or what someone's contacted them for either. To let you know, through COVID as well, we did have 2 brokers that ended up institutionalised because of breakdowns during COVID. And 1 out of 2 is known very personally to me. And it does happen. The reality is that mental health, no matter what you're going through in life, can hit anybody at any point in time. So those numbers are up there for you to use at your own convenience. And as we said, pass it on to your family as well. So we're very, very pleased and happy with the partnership that we have there with the crew from Suncorp. So guys, the fun part of the morning. We are going to break now for morning tea. It has entered the room. It's located around the back of the room is tea. And we're back. I think everyone's here. Cameron's back. As long as Cameron's back, that's all that matters. So I have to keep looking at my sheet to realize where I'm at during my day. I'm going to ask Cameron to come and join me on stage after he's having a chat to Mariah at the back. So Cammy's going to join me on stage. Mariah's just about to turn our screen back on. So up on the screen, you'll see there's some names. Actually, can't see. You can see some company names at the moment. Bluestone, Strive Financial, Prosper, Speedy Finance, Finstro, and On Deck. And they will be joining us behind the screens. There's 6 of them online. Here we are, kids. Hi. It's the second time I've got to see their smiling faces this morning. We are missing one, which is, oh no, there's Daz. Daz is in. And Cameron's joining me obviously live down here in Hobart this morning. This is our finance lenders panel. And obviously we're exploring a new world now of lending now that we've made it through COVID and everything that's happened with it. So guys, we're going to kick off really quickly on this. It obviously, I was going to say it's been 12 months since COVID became a pandemic. Hang on, it's been about 5 minutes for Melbourne. Sorry guys that are in Melbourne. It's still a pandemic, let's be honest. So what changes, if any, have you made with your businesses? I keep looking up there, forgetting you're there this time, Cam. Have you made for your businesses to adapt and adjust to a new style of lending? And because Cameron's sitting next to me and you guys can't see us, I'll get Cameron to start here live in Hobart.
Thank you, Legend. Thank you so much for having me. Cameron Garnham from Strive Financial. I guess the main changes that we've had is our travel, right? So we typically fly to meet face-to-face with all of our clients, which is why we can turn the money around so quickly. The year before COVID, I did a bit over 200 flights. Last year from March to December, we did 4. So it obviously changed our business immensely. How we've got around that is that we now have lawyers in each capital city that the client can go to their office and I do a Zoom meeting with them. So I still get to see them face to face. They still get a feel for me. I get a feel for them through Zoom and they sign the documents with the lawyer and send them back. So we are back doing some travel now. I was in Perth signing loans up last week, but obviously it's a day-by-day proposition at the moment. So I guess that was the biggest change in our day-to-day business, that's for sure.
Perfect. It kind of sucks when you don't fly as much anymore. I learned that last year too. I don't think I got on any flights between March and December.
Yeah, my wife didn't like it.
You should spend more time with it.
I was home a hell of a lot more and she was like, how long till this pandemic's over and you can fly again?
Yeah, it's understandable. I feel for Sarah. Avi, good morning. Welcome in from Bluestone. And Avi's another one that's based in Melbourne. So he's currently sitting in his home office, isolating from the world. But Avi, for Bluestone side of things, what changes have Bluestone made to adapt and adjust to obviously a new world now that COVID's become part of our everyday living?
First of all, thanks for having me, Leah. Really appreciate it. Guys, the biggest change what we made during COVID was when we realized that the SLA is the biggest pain point at the moment for a lot of lenders out in the market. And the change what we made was we grew our credit team to make sure the SLAs, we stick to 1 to 2 days SLA. And if you look at today as well, like we still growing our credit team day by day. And that was the biggest change we did to make sure we set the expectation right or deliver the expectation from the broker's point of view that we deliver the stick to 1 day SLA. And the other thing which we did during this pandemic, we started doing DigiDocs, and that helped a lot of brokers to get the loans approved, settled within the timely manner. So those were the 2 big changes we made.
Perfect. And Lee, over in Prosper, you're on the far side of our screen this morning. Good morning. Another one that is unfortunately stuck in a lockdown state. So 1, how are you going? And 2, what changes have Prosper made, obviously, now that COVID's become part of our normal everyday living?
Yeah, thanks, Leah, and thanks, everyone. Well, it's a tough one, but the changes I've made just personally, last week we left from Elwood to come out to the lovely region of Geelong because my partner's dad lives out here with a 4-bedroom nice house, and we're in the 2-bedroom apartment with a recently added little toy cavoodle to our family. So we needed to get out. So that was a good change for myself, to be honest, which is made a little bit of lockdown a little bit easier than what I thought it would be. But to everyone out there as well, just stay safe. Look, from our point of view, we made some, I think the changes we made were actually really advantageous to clients out there. We sort of, from having a line of credit, for example, that was max amount was 100K over 12 months. We extended the term to 2 years, and we've extended the facility amount to 150. Regarding our small business loans, we typically only went up to 2 years, but since sort of December last year, especially we went out to 3 years. So, from a point of view of, yes, we had to make some changes through COVID, and some of those were just, going back to sort of the minimum requirements of 12-month statements, and also an ABN to be active for 12 months. We've gone back to pre-COVID, so it's literally same thing, back to 6 months bank statements, 6 months in business, and our products have changed for the better, extended from 2 years to 3 years in our small business loan, and 1 year to 2 years with our line of credit.
So I'm sitting here looking at my three Melbourne people at the moment. So Avi, Ben, Ben and Lee. I just want to talk about the growth that's going on the faces after 6 days, fellas. It's kind of like, is it a no shave policy during COVID? Is it?
Well, the Greek background for me, this is, if you think this is 6 days, you've got another thing coming. This is probably about 6 minutes. So.
I'm the same, Leah. I shaved yesterday morning. What are you talking about?
Yeah, so it's definitely a COVID thing. So at the end of whenever they decide this lockdown is going to be over, guys, I think we should have a bit of a competition to see who's got the best looking beard out of you three.
Yeah, I probably might have the best looking beard, but I probably won't have a partner. So
yeah, this is true. This is true. But I do like the fact that you've gone and had a COVID baby, whether it's got 4 legs or 2, it's okay. Yeah. But look, we were only saying earlier, and you guys missed it, that so many people ended up with pets during COVID. So I think it's great therapy that you've inherited, and I don't know if it's also therapy or mental health, because it is like having a newborn child. So good luck with that.
Thanks, I need it.
Coops, the foreigner on the panel this morning. So Cooper's based up on the Gold Coast, and he's part of our wonderful Speedy Finance team. So Coops, has COVID changed how you guys are doing business? And if so, what does that actually mean for you at the moment?
Yeah, so a big thing with Speedy, especially during COVID and even with the outbreak now in Melbourne, we're very, client focused. We actually, main thing that we did first was just touch base with our clients, see how COVID's affected them, and just kind of work with them to see, what we can do and assist with their business. On a different side, a big change for us was just making sure everything's streamlined. So having documents done electronically, doing Zoom calls, or even, for example, even with Victoria now, doing the witnessing of documents with electronic JPs.
That's the first I've heard of electronic JPs too. So
yeah, you have to book them in, but you can do them. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. So they actually
sit, that you could all probably look any businesses with.
Yeah, so they sit with the client face to face through a Zoom call, and they have the authority to actually witness with, as a JP on their behalf.
Useful tool to have in business. Mr. Starkey, good morning. So from on deck side of things, we've got Ben joining us this morning. So COVID changes for you, what do they mean, and what does it look like for business?
Yeah, so good morning. Yeah, good morning, everyone. I think the biggest change for us when COVID first hit was moving to working remotely. So based in Sydney, so lucky enough that our lockdown was ended a little bit earlier. So we're full time at home for about 6 months, and I think the biggest changes that our technology has allowed us to is we're still working from home now. We've got a bit more flexibility. So previously, obviously in the office full time. Now we can go home for a few days, which is always good. Get things done around the house, and then you can still go in, and so you get the best of both worlds in terms of seeing all your colleagues. There's nothing like face-to-face meetings in terms of getting things done. So working with the credit team and underwriting team, things like that. So that's all good. In terms of changes, we're lucky enough in our line of work that everything can be done electronically. So we've always used like your DocuSign, so everything can be signed, completed nice and quickly. Yeah, in terms of our product changes, I'll go through a little bit later.
Perfect. And the newest kid on the block, Daz, has currently gone over and joined the team at Finstro. A couple of you down here might remember him from his days at eChoice, where I go right back with him. So Darren, good morning. Another one, unfortunately, at the moment that is stuck in the lockdown situation in Melbourne. But from Finstray's point of view, how has COVID changed how they've done business, and what does that mean for today's broker?
Thanks, Leah, and good morning, everybody. Finstro, during 2020, the COVID period, they kind of went into a bit of a hibernation, and they closed up their door, not fully closed up their doors, but they certainly went into hibernation, and they were relying on their tech-driven application process where it's all completed via link. But they quickly realised that they needed to expand and really pay homage to the third-party broker market by bringing staff on, and one of them was me. And through my relationships and contacts through the Big Tas market, we'll see growth. In addition to that, they haven't stood still. We've also decided to bring on a BDM in Queensland, add one to New South Wales, and we have a new one starting in Brisbane next week, I believe. So they're very much dedicated to the growth through the third-party channels. We are a referral model, so therefore we do pretty much all the work for your client, but we do it on behalf of you, the broker. So from a change in 2020 to 2021, the biggest change for us has been the additional staff. The way we've handled that, when we can, we obviously do face-to-face. I was meant to be down there with you guys today, but unfortunately with Victoria closing its border and Tassie not letting me in, I couldn't get down there. One of my peers, Mark Anderson, was going to go down. He actually arrived in Hobart last night, but because he'd been in Victoria around about the 20th of the last month, the COVID police down there locked him up into a quarantine and sent him back to Sydney sometime today. So hence we're doing it Zoom. But to round it off, 2020 to 21, we're seeing good growth within the business by the additional staff to get out there and certainly support you guys out in the field to demonstrate how you can help your clients with their cash flow needs.
Perfect, mate. And look, we are all hoping that Mark gets home today. We've sent him our best and did offer alcohol to be sent up to his room should he need it. So
Speak for yourself. I don't.
I offered.
He got in
Mark
9:30
alcohol
last night and straight into hotel quarantine. I thought it was the funniest thing that's happened.
That's really mean, Cam.
I love Ando.
It's
He's a good guy.
They're recording this. They're sending it to his room. So
I hope they are.
it's all right. He's really not. I think he's over us now. So he is actually in the hotel. We don't know what floor at the moment he's on, and I'm pretty sure he's probably not going to tell us either. So guys, my favorite question, Cammy, I'll start with you. SLAs. It's the one that don't throw anything at me from the audience. SLAs at the moment, we all know that they are pretty crap. We know you're not part of a bank, but SLAs for you, do they affect your business? And if they do, what are we looking at the moment?
No, not really. And SLAs obviously are at the big banks and what have you. With guys like us, our ability is our agility to turn the money around so quickly. So we're getting people money in 24 hours. So you have an answer while you're on the phone to me, a letter of offer within an hour. Once we have that back, my little sister's in-house lawyer. She does the documents. I get on a plane, fly to meet with your client the next morning at 9 a.m. and they've got up to $3 million in their account. So SLAs for us aren't really aren't an issue. We're not a tech company. 99% of companies now are all tech companies. I struggle to turn a computer on. At the end of the day, it's our money. We make the decision. You call me on my mobile and you'll have a decision typically while you're on the phone with me. So not too much of a problem for us.
You're being really nice to Casey today. You actually didn't say that she's an overpaid in-house lawyer.
She's overpaid for the hours she does.
Yeah, this is true.
When
she's not at the wake park.
She rarely rocks up.
Yeah. You pay for her new cars. That's all it comes down to. So who am I going to pick on? Avi, we'll start with you. From your point of view, SLAs at the moment, how are they affecting Bluestone and what are you guys doing about it?
Yeah, Leah, with SLIs, we are sitting on 1 day from the day we received all the supporting docs. And it's funny because we get a lot of business just because of SLI. Because our SLI is so sharp and so like we are turning around things so quickly. And like I said before, is we keep hiring more underwriters to keep up with those SLIs. So give you an example, a deal was submitted last month on 11th of May, and it was settled on 24th of May. So not only the conditional or unconditional approval, but from the day we get the application, it's a well-packaged deal and everything, we just turn around so quickly. So yeah, with our SLIs, we're still sticking to 1 day. And as always, like SLI depends on the submission as well. So the well submitted deal turns around really quickly.
Perfect. Thanks, Avi. So it's a 1 day turnaround at the moment. Well, 1 day full assessment or 1 day pre-approved?
1 day full assessment or pre-approval, either or.
Either or. Perfect. Lee, over to you. SLAs at the moment for Prosper. How is it affecting you guys and what are you doing to revolutionize the world?
Revolutionise. Well, we've got two parts to our product. So we've got our Express Path, which is any deal between $2K and $150,000. At the moment, SLAs for that, we like to think is at 24 hours. So typically from times while getting if we get all the information that we need for an Express Path, which is typically 6-month statements and ID, we can have an answer back to your clients within 24 hours. And that means, pretty much from submission to settlement within 24 hours. In regards to our Prosper Plus product, which is any deal from 150K up to $500,000, we've got an SLA of about 72 hours from receiving the documents that we're after and settlement. So I've just recently did a $500,000, which we did it within 72 hours. So pretty quick. And that's where we're at the moment.
Perfect. Thanks, mate. Coops, down to you. So from Speedy's side of things, SLAs, and what are you guys doing to work within them?
Yeah, so with Speedy, because we're not so much a cash flow lender, we're looking at using property as security. We're typically looking at a 3-day, 4-day process. So once we have the scenario in, documents, the appraisal team look at the property, come back with an offer, and then once the offer's signed, we go to documents and have the client sign to settle.
Perfect. Starkey, for you guys at the moment at On Deck, how are we going with SLAs?
Yeah, so similar to some of the other guys I've already mentioned, SLAs is our benefit. It's why brokers and customers do come to us. SLA wise, we go to market with a 24, 48 hour turnaround time. That's for all applications. In terms of sort of the fastest, we've actually recently launched a lightning loans product. So what that is, it's basically removing the need for an underwriter to look over 50% of our deals. So that's up to 95,000 and most are getting approved within 2 to 3 hours. So it's a great result for brokers to go back to the customer that quick. And if everything's good, then we can get funded same day. So SLA wise, even quicker than pre-COVID.
Perfect. And Daz, over to you guys from Finstro side of things. How are you going with SLAs and what are you doing to work within your parameters of it?
SLAs aren't an issue for us, Leah. We can approve and fund any application within 24 hours, subject to time of day. That's up to 100,000 to 500,000 we can do within 24 to 48 hours, subject to time of day. Again, we find that with our products being trade-based natured, we're just looking at the quick turnover of the business. So therefore, we're lending against that with no bricks and mortar security or asset backing.
Perfect. So something that I'm going to highlight now, and I'm just going to throw the rule book straight out the window. With submissions and SLAs, it's like one of my favorite topics, and Peter knows that. We did quite a bit of research over COVID and obviously into this year because of the banter online regarding SLAs and how long it is taking to get things done. An alarming thing came up from it. One, channel conflict is there and we're aware of it. We're doing our best to work with the ABA to streamline it, get it better. But two, through the research of things, we found out at the moment 60% of applications being lodged are incomplete or incorrect, which is a really scary number. It means that at the moment there are brokers out there, I'm not saying it to you guys, we'll just blame the rest of the country because they're not here, aren't submitting at 100% of document requests. Now, also on the back of that, we know that there are certain credit managers out there that are moving goalposts. So we believe we're going in on 100% document requests and all of a sudden the goalposts get moved. We are doing our best to work within it. Peter is across it at the moment. And the more that we hear from people directly, and I have to label it with directly, we will be able to action it. But while things, and we appreciate our friends at Finance and Coffee, while people are going on social media groups and saying, hey, this is what's happening, and then they have a wonderful 50 comment rant about it, and they slam both associations, and then they hate me for not replying at 7 o'clock on a Saturday night, we can't do anything because it's third party. So what Peter and I have decided to do is we're encouraging you to email either one of us or both of us or him or me or whichever way you want to do it and let us know what's happening. You don't have to give us a client's name. We'd actually prefer you didn't. It's a breach of privacy. You can change their name. Fred Flintstone works. But let us know what's happened, and it must be real-time stuff. So as in you've gone to NAB, NAB's done, I shouldn't use NAB as a classic example on that one, I should use CBA or something. But you've gone to NAB, you know, it's taken X, Y, Z to happen. Credit managers come back and said, you know, this was your document list, you met the document list, but they've come back and said, well, wait, we still want more. Or you've gone to NAB, you've hit the pipeline, client's gone into NAB and had it approved within 2 or 3 days. We want to know about that as well. It has to be channel to channel. It can't be you've submitted to NAB and it's in pipeline for 7 days, they've gone to CBA and had it approved in 2. And I only use those 2 as an example. I'm just in a hypothetical world. We love our friends at NAB. Didn't say that we love CBA though. So it's a case that we know that it's going on, but we need to know directly what's happening. And Peter and I do want to hear from you guys about it. As much as, you know, you can also contact Brett Spencer, who is the state president for you guys. But the more feedback we get, the more we can actually action it. So that being said, it leads me to my next question. So guys, what are you seeing as the trip over point for submissions when they're coming in for brokers? So what problems are we seeing on applications that are coming in, and knowing the 5 that are up on that screen, they're going to go, every deal we get's perfect. But in reality, where are we seeing trip over points, and what do you think we could do better? Or are there things that brokers can keep in mind that will help the submission process be a lot more streamlined with where you're at and what you're doing? Cami.
Listen, you can't muck ours up. It's a 2-page application form, a copy of a rates notice and a copy of a home loan statement. We don't need 6 months. We just need the latest one, or a printout off their net bank or whatever it is to show us how much is owing. I guess the one thing I always advise any borrower or broker that comes through to us is the more honest the client is on their application form, the better chance they are of getting a loan. So sometimes they think I'm going to give them $2 million tomorrow and they can put that their house is worth $2 million and no one will check. If we look at a property and the client says it's worth $950,000, they owe $250,000, and they bought that property for $680,000 6 months ago, alarm bells ring straight away. Now, if they write 680,000, they owe 250, we'll still give them 250 grand, what they're looking for. But as soon as we see something like that, we start to double guess what else is not right on this, right? Do they owe 250 grand, but they've got a line of credit against the property as well that they're not sending me the statement for? Or do they have another investment property down the road worth 500 grand that they owe the same bank 600 grand on, and they're cross collateralized? Or just trying to get them to be upfront. The more upfront they are, the more likely we are to approve that loan. And when we're giving someone somewhere from $20,000 to $3 million after speaking to them 3 times on the phone and 1 face-to-face meeting 24 hours later, you want to have some sort of gut feel of that person and that you're going to get that money back. So that'd be my only thing. We don't need bank statements. We don't need tax returns. We don't need BAS statements. As I say, we don't do the bankstatements.com or whatever it is. We don't need any of that stuff. So the couple of things we do need, they just need to be really honest on.
Sounds good. Avi, up to you. So if the submissions that you're getting, we don't like the word advice because we don't give it, but is there any advice that you can give to the room for submissions? What are you seeing where people generally trip over, and what advice can you give the room that they may want to take on board where things could become a little bit more streamlined?
Yeah, guys, first of all, if you're thinking of bringing a deal to Bluestone, the first and most important thing, please pick up the phone or shoot an email to your BDM and discuss the scenario with your BDM in detail. Now, that's the most important thing, because sometimes you read the policy, or the policy you're reading, the way you're reading it might be totally different to what we look, or not totally different, or the way we look at the policy. So always the most important thing is please pick up the phone and have a chat with your BDM. And second, and the most important one, Leah, what you mentioned is the submission. Like we have, when you print out the Bluestone application form, there is a checklist. When you submit a deal with Bluestone, please make sure you've gone through the checklist and all the supporting docs have been provided. That not only helps you getting the answer quicker, it helps our backend team and helps our underwriters as well to make the decision really quickly, rather than it goes for 2, 3, 4 days or whatever. So first tip is call your BDM, discuss the scenario, or email your BDM and go through the scenario in detail. And 2, please go through the checklist and just provide all the supporting docs in the one go, so that because it doesn't make any difference. It's sitting on your desk or our desk if you don't have the supporting docs.
Perfect. Lee, over to you. Lee.
Sorry, thanks, Lee. Yep, I'm back. Sorry. Look, from our point of view, I have to totally agree with what Avi's just mentioned before. Obviously, there are some deals, and I'm sure all of us on this panel know that there's certain deals that we probably can't do. And we, a lot of the time we do liaise with other, lenders and BDMs to make sure that we find the perfect fit for your client. Look, from our point of view, there's a couple of things that we sort of look at, but there's also times where we would, from a point, I'd look at stuff and go, well, maybe we can't do it, but we probably, without submitting it to credit, we'd go through our accredited officer and get some feedback on it. Like I just literally did a deal with a client that had a Vita score of 127. Now, if you look at our matrix, sometimes that says we need a minimum of 400. So there's little things like that. And then like Avi said, just call me or one of the internal guys at Prosper and we can workshop the deal. But typically, like what we're looking at probably is time in business. Obviously, they need to be in business longer than 6 months. The other thing would be if they've got ATO debt. From our point of view, we've got a bit of a stance there. It's okay to have ATO debt, but if they do have it and it's more than 60% of what their average monthly turnover is, then we'd want them to be on a payment plan. If they're not on a payment plan, it's going to be quite tough. And we're obviously, from a point of view of it's risk for rate for us, I guess. So we're looking for some consistency in revenue as well in what's coming in through the bank statements. But like Avi said, maybe any deal is a deal for us until we say no, I guess. But most importantly for us, they need to be in business for longer than 6 months.
Perfect. Cooper, down to you. So from your point of view at the moment, what you're seeing on submissions and what you are able to advise the room that's going to help them get a deal across the line with you.
Yeah, so with Speedy, because we're mainly dealing with property secured lending, exactly as Cam said it, when clients are putting forward all their information, it's just making sure that they're honest and presenting all the information. If a client's saying their house is worth double the amount, they bought it the other day, or you find they have some cross collateralized debt to it and they're not presenting that information up front and you're finding it later on, it really makes you question the client and think, double check if that's someone that we want to be lending money to. So it's just really, getting all that information up front, I guess.
Perfect. Starks, from your side at On Deck.
Yeah, so with our application process, it's designed to be easy and as minimal documents as required. So it is just an application form and 6 months of bank statements. What I do suggest is, like the guys said, give myself a call. We can workshop the deal. If we do think there are issues there, we might ask for some extra documentation, such as like a petrol station. We might ask for a P&L just to verify how much revenue they are actually making. But what we do like to do as well is just make sure we do get the 6 months of bank statements up front before we submit an application. It's just go through the statements, let you know where we think an approval will likely land, and if we think it will be knocked back. If we think it will be declined, there's no point wasting your time or the credit's time or the client's time, sorry, putting their mark on their credit file if it is just going to get knocked back in a few hours' time. So just making sure we do vet these things up front. If we do have additional questions based on the statements, we can try and get that up front so we can go back to our underwriting team with a full picture.
Perfect. And Daz, from Finstro's side of business at the moment?
We don't really have a major application process problem, because as long as the introducer has laid the foundation of the minimum 6 months ABN GST and have a rough idea of their monthly turnover, the name and contact number of that proposed client goes into our internal sales team. They ring the client and help them through the electronic lodgement, which is about 3 pages long, which contains name, address details, ABN, and also gives us access to their bank statements through bankstatements.com. And we utilise broker flow for that purpose. And we also run a credit check then. If the client is uncertain about what their turnover is or what we may look at as an approval limit, we do encourage for just the bank statements to be issued. That comes without a credit check, and we can then quickly review them to identify what kind of facility limit we can then approve for their supplier invoices or debtor invoices, which can then help their cash in their business from the day to day. So the key point here is, I think, the introducing broker, as long as they understand the minimum requirements and they provide that to the client, so when we ring them, call them, they're fully aware of where we're at, so the process is seamless.
And what we're also saying, guys, is these guys are in lockdown in Melbourne, so they've got plenty of time on their hands at the moment to go through any and every scenario you want to give them. So I'm sure that'll keep them entertained for hours on end while they're locked down there. Other than that, they'll start very extensive coffee or alcohol habits. It'll be one of the two. So guys, my next question for you is going to be how you would describe your perfect borrower for your style of lending, other than somebody that actually repays the debt.
We're either solving a problem or helping someone take advantage of an opportunity. So on all of our stuff, we need an ambulance to my right. What?
I think he's hiding the fact that he's got COVID. I think that's
if
all
he
it
coughs
is.
like that again, he's going to have to go in Ando's room.
I wouldn't lock anyone up with Mark,
Lockdown.
just saying.
No, listen, we're either solving a problem or helping someone take advantage of an opportunity. So the latest one we did in Perth last week, a client bringing camper trailers from China. He needs to pay 60%. Once they arrive here, he pays the other 40%. So we're able to give him that money until he gets it over here and gets them sold, and we're able to bridge that gap for him. So there's always a time-sensitive issue. If people have got 6 weeks until they need the money, they're not going to come to someone like us or Coops at Speedy to do a short-term loan. It's always time-sensitive, and we need a really clear exit strategy. So we do know credit checks or financials or tax returns or BAS statements or bank statements or any of that stuff. And people say, well, how can you know if the person's going to repay the money? Well, we're looking at the exit strategy. How's the client going to pay the money back? Is it through a refinance? Is it through the sale of a property? Is it through the sale of the camper trailers that come in? Whatever it is, there needs to be a really clear exit strategy. So there's always a pressing time issue, and then the exit strategy is really, really critical.
And I think for the brokers in the room, and Coops, you're up there on my screen as well when I say this, although you still can't see me. Private lenders have always had a bad name. And that's the reality of the situation. They are seen as the loan sharks and probably the worst of the worst to deal with, but you are purpose-driven lenders. Any advice that you want to or can share with the room at the moment from either of you? I'll start with Cami, that people can understand when they're dealing with private lenders what they should be looking for.
Yeah, most definitely. And listen, I've probably seen most of you over my 6 or 7 years at the FBAA on stage up here, and I joke about being the Gold Coast loan shark, right?
Dirty bikey loan shark from the Gold Coast.
It is a really, really grey area. The one piece of advice that I've been harping on about for the last 6 or 7 years is paying anything up front before your client has any money. If you're paying application fees or establishment fees or desktop valuation fees or anything out of pocket, 90% of the time, that person that you're paying that to is not the lender. We're the lender. It's all our own money. We make money out of interest. We don't make money out of garbage fees that we charge a client, right? So we don't charge a single cent upfront to any of our clients ever, never have, never will. So your client cannot get burnt with us. You can't submit the 2-page application form and someone asks you for a $5,000 application fee, or I had one the other day. They send a letter of offer and they're just generic letters of offer that go to every single application they ever get. You send that letter of offer back and they want an $850 desktop valuation fee. Now, we do desktop valuations. You log on to RP Data and type the address in, charging $850 for that, and they all get declined. Every single one will get declined. It will come back and say, oh, it didn't meet our criteria. The property is not worth what the client said it was worth, or what have you. And that's how they make their money. They make their money out of $850 sending letters of offer. Don't ever pay a cent up front to anyone in this sort of short-term industry would be my one piece of advice. And I'm pretty strong on it. We'd like to see some regulation around it because it does happen a hell of a lot.
Sounds like a job you could give Peter. Coops, from your side of things at the moment, any advice you can give on the short-term lending side and what you're seeing?
Yeah, so with the short-term lending side, I guess the biggest thing, obviously it used to have a bit more of a stigma around it, but my advice would be, I guess, each lender has, a place. So whether you need a longer-term facility, shorter-term facility, whatever it is, someone like me and Cam, our product is essentially, like he said, is a solution. So whether it's a 3-month solution, 6-month solution, if they're borrowing it at 2% per month over 3 months, and they have an exit, they're paying it back, that's going to cost them 6%. So it's just, using that product for your client in the right scenario.
Perfect. Avi, so for Bluestone's point of view, what is who is the perfect borrower for your particular style of lending that Bluestone does?
Leah, look, if you asked me this question 2 years ago, I would say we are a solution-based lender. But since our prime launch in November 2019, we have got 4 different products which suits different type of customers. So if I look at our prime product today, our prime product is everyday customer, like you can call them a vanilla customer. No, not that a vanilla customer exists anymore, but these days. But having said that, a vanilla customer for us is where the customer has got something on their comprehensive credit report, or their credit score is low, or anything like that, that fits our prime product, because we don't do comprehensive credit reporting or credit check on any of our products. Then you look at our near prime product, that's where we help those self-employed customers where their ABN is a short term, like 12 months ABN, or they haven't been GST registered for a long time. It depends on that as well. So then the third and the fourth product which we have is our Specialist and Specialist Plus product, where the customers have got bad history with their mortgage repayments or credit card repayments and all that. That's where they fit in that product. So we look like we'd like to say that we are a solution-based lender. We have got 4 different products for 4 different type of customers. Again, that takes me to the point what I said earlier is, please pick up the phone, have a chat with your BDM or email the BDM, and the BDM will guide you through, okay, this will fit, this customer will fit this product. And that's how we work on each and every individual deals.
And I think the other thing I learned last week in Perth, finally seeing Ebony and Belinda after so long, Bluestone actually has a prime product, which I had no idea about until last week. So in my mind, I've always looked at Bluestone sitting in that non-conforming space as well. And then obviously having it highlighted now that there is that prime product sitting behind Bluestone that is sitting underneath exceptional rates as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, Mula. Leah, when I started with Bluestone almost 4 years ago, our rates used to start from 5.89. But when I talk to the brokers these days and I tell them our rate starts from 2.44, and we can even do in Tassie, there are some locations we can go up to 85% LVR with no LMI and no risk fee on our prime product. Now, that's not only for the first home buyers, that's for the people who want to do refinance, bit of cash out or debt console. Any of that, we can go up to 85% in Tassie with no LMI. So there is always a product where we can help the clients in Tassie as well. So yeah, again, please pick up the phone, give us a call. That's what we are here to help for.
Perfect. And my screen has somewhat changed behind me at the moment. So Starkey, I'm going to come down to you. Perfect kind of borrower for the type of business that On Deck writes at the moment.
Yeah, so any perfect customer for us is any small business that needs fast, pain-free access to working capital. So as I was saying, we do have extremely fast turnaround time. So if it's timing delays, say for example, to take advantage of purchasing stock in bulk that you do need to make an order the next day to get say a discount on the stock, then that's the ideal customer. But it's really any small business that's looking to take advantage of any growth opportunities or looking to fill a cash flow gap.
And does for Finstro's side of things?
Perfect client is any client that is introduced to us from a broker partner, because just love to get the business in. One of the metrics for that would be any business client, self-employed or SME, whom just has a bit of a up and down nature or a peak and trough within their cash flow lending or their cash flow account. The whole concept of cash flow lending is to flatten the curve out a little bit, maintain a good healthy balance through their trading cycle, and they can do that by utilising your debtor invoices where people owe you money. We can fund up to 80% of that, or for your supplier invoices, I think Cam mentioned an overseas supplier. We too do that. We do that under a 2-tranche model where we'll pay 100% of the supplier's invoice. We pay the deposit first so the goods can be manufactured, and then we pay the balance to get them, to put them on the ship or the plane to get them here in Australia. So in essence, the perfect client is any business whom just needs that cash in hand to grow, pay rent, pay wages, flatten out their curve of their cash account.
Perfect. And Lee, from Prosper's side of things, perfect client for the style of lending you're doing at the moment?
Yeah, very similar to what Ben and Dazza just mentioned as well. Again, if you've got a client out there that's probably not asset backed, he's looking for some quick and easy cash flow solutions. Someone that's probably not rate conscious as well. So they're probably typically our best clients. I mean, from a point of view of we're lending pretty much all around Australia to every single business around Australia. We have got a couple of industries that are excluded. But from a point of view of what I'd say out there to the brokers is go into your databases. What we're really liking right now, 35% of our business is coming out of building and trade, closely followed through professional services, and we're getting a lot more back from hospitality and retail. So yeah, that's probably where we're at.
Thanks, mate. Okay, guys, we're going down to the trivial end, the pointy end of the stick here. Hi, Cam. Welcome back. Going to wrap things up. Bit of a strange one for you. We did it with the last panel. 2 questions, 1 hit. What is the one thing you like about Tasmania? I'm sure there's more than one. One thing you like about Tasmania, and if there is any business suggestions, because I've been told by this particular panel not to use the advice word. If there's any business suggestions you can give the audience for 2021, what would it be?
I'm not qualified to give advice in anything. I say this every time you ask me for advice.
I said business
My wife would
suggestions.
be horrified if she thought I was sitting on stage giving someone advice on something. Tassie, listen, I love your weather. Being from the Gold Coast, we were sitting around last night having a drink around the fire and stuff, and you guys probably get absolutely sick of it. I'm seeing you all shake your head like, how could this idiot like this weather? But when you sit on the Gold Coast sweating all year, it's a nice change to come down here and be able to sit around a fire. And I don't get down that often, really. I get down once a year, usually with the FBAA. Around advice, listen, the one thing about what we do and what Speedy does and what all these guys do is that it's a solution-based cost at the end of the day. If you try and sell it or give it to people in an annualized rate at 40% per annum or 24% per annum or whatever it is, then it's going to be very difficult for a client to take that money. But as Coop said earlier, our stuff is a solution. It might be a 3-week solution and it costs you 3%. At the end of the day, businessmen and women will make the decision on whether the cost of the solution is worth fixing the problem or the cost of the opportunity is worth taking advantage of the opportunity. And if it is, they'll do the deal. If it's not, they won't do the deal. It's really simple. So a lot of brokers really struggle, I've seen over the last 6 or 7 years, in even given the offering. They're like, who could ever possibly borrow money at 52% per annum? You must be a loan shark from the Gold Coast. But it's not, we don't do a 52-week loan, right, at 1% per week. We do a 3-week loan with no penalty for early repayment, no upfront fees or charges. Someone's going to lose $100,000 of a deposit on a property that needs to settle on Friday, and they need 500 grand. It's cost them 5 grand a week for 3 weeks. It costs them 15 grand plus your brokerage. It might cost them 20 grand to do it, and they save 100. Now, there's not a single person in this room that wouldn't make that deal. So it's just an offering. The businessmen and women of Australia will make the decision on whether it suits what they need or it doesn't.
I like that. Good answer, Cam. Good answer. For once. Avi, up to you at the top. What do you like about Tasmania? And also, we won't use the word advice, business tips and tools you might be able to give the room for 2021.
Now, first of all, my favorite thing from Tassie is a Lark Classic Cask Scotch. If any one of you haven't tried it, guys, whosoever is on the call, that is one of the best Scotch you can have. So please try it, because whenever I go to Tassie, I buy a few of them and just enjoy that. That is the one best thing in Tassie. Now, business advice, guys, I'm going to repeat what I said. Please pick up the phone, speak to your BDM, but most importantly is the broker notes. When you submit a broker notes, when you submit a deal, to Bluestone, your broker notes are the most important thing submitting to Bluestone. You need to picture that story to the underwriter who can read all those broker notes and see why this customer or why you have recommended Bluestone to this customer and what is the financial benefit for this customer coming to the Bluestone. So it all depends on your broker notes. Now, one last thing before I finish. All the BDMs on this call, I know a lot of them personally. Guys, we all are here to help you. So if you need anything, please do not hesitate. I'm just going to say it on behalf of everyone. Please do not hesitate to pick up the phone or call us and just have a chat. Hey, this is what do you think? And within this group, or not only within this group, but a lot of BDMs in Victoria, if we say that we can't do the loan, we know where to go, or we will guide you. Hey, go to Prosper, or go to Liberty, or go to Red, whosoever, because we work together really closely as BDMs. We all are here to help you. That's my tip.
And I think that is important to remember too, that we are a wider community of BDMs. And as much as people kind of go, the likes of Prosper can't speak to On Deck, we've all got a really close working relationship. So if somebody can't do the deal, it'll generally be pitched to all of us and someone will come back with an answer. It's not about channel conflict for us. It could be that you're a fast broker and we might have to give it to a plan BDM, but these transactions are taking us back to where we were 15 years ago and we're working together as an industry. So it's no longer the competitiveness of I can't work with you because you work with XYZ. We've got to work together to get solutions for you, especially now that the Royal Commission's happen and responsible lending's out there. We've got to come back with the best option for your client. So that's a really cool point to remember. Avi, thanks for that as well. Coops, over to you. Tasmania, what do you like about it? Obviously, because you're not here and you're on the Gold Coast with meter maids, but we won't bring that up.
No.
But what do you like about Tassie, mate? And is there any tips you can give us?
I haven't actually been to Tassie, but me and my girlfriend have been meaning to get down there eventually. It would have to be probably the vineyards. So I think we'd do a few wine tours when we did get the chance to go there. So that'd probably be that. For the advice or suggestion, I guess, it would just be to understand each lender. So, each lender offers a different product. It's about finding that right product for your client. And whether that fixes their problem or allows them to take advantage of an opportunity. So just be kind of getting an understanding of each lender and what they can offer.
Starks, over to On Deck.
Yeah, favorite thing about Tasmania would have to be the scenery and just some of the hikes and walks that you can go on. Simply beautiful. In terms of my tip, I think in our space it would have to be just stay at the forefront of your client's mind, especially for mainly residential mortgage brokers. Some of your clients might actually not be aware that you are offering some of these shorter term or business loan opportunities. So just staying at the forefront there through marketing tactics and just staying up to date on some events that are coming up, such as if you've got a lot of florists on your book, just making sure you're reaching out to them around Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, things like that. Because there's obviously opportunity for them in terms of getting stock and new employees and other uses around that. So stay at the forefront of the client's mind and just marketing opportunities.
You're an old softie up there, Starkey. Daz, over to Finstro's side of things. What do you like about Tassie, mate? And any kind of tips you can give us for 2021?
What I like about Tassie, first things that come to my mind are the friendliness, the helpfulness and the casual style of all Taswegians. I love the historical buildings, whether they're in Hobart, around Salamanca, Launceston. There's a great little town called Evandale, just past Launceston Airport, and even up as far as Devonport and Burnie, great locations. And if no one's been there, I strongly suggest you have, especially this panel. Tips I can give for 2021. Data tells us that every broker's book contains at least 40% on average self-employed clients. And with those self-employed clients, for every asset lend that you do or a mortgage that you do, you obtain at least 2 years financials, previous and current. And from that, you work out your serviceability for their mortgage loan. What I'm suggesting is to take the next step or to ask the next question. Have a look at those figures and do snapshot comparisons between 20 and 21 to see whether that business is being cash hampered or not. And also just to take the next step to really understand those self-employed clients by asking them the questions of, how is your cash account? They'll look at you weirdly, but if you can get them to understand the peaks and trough nature that they may be experiencing, because what they're looking at for their bricks and mortar is just the end result, but we need to understand how that business is transacting or trading during the year. So the word diversification flows around a fair bit in this industry, and I suggest that by just asking that next question of your self-employed clients or your SME clients after you've done the bricks and mortar loan, how are you going there? Can I help you show some further growth or help you pay your rent or staff wages is one way that you can not only enhance your relationship with the client, but also potentially pick up an easy deal or two.
Perfect. And Lee, last but not least, from you, Tassie, what do you like? And can you give us some tips?
I think a bit of everything from everyone's, suggestions there. But I've been there a fair few times. Just the casualness of everyone. It's everyone's easy to get along with. Some great restaurants there, both in Hobart and Lonnie. Some great golf clubs. Bamberg was beautiful. So there's some beautiful things there. I love the weather as well. I think nice and fresh. You wake up and you're ready to go. So beautiful place. Can't wait to get down there again, hopefully soon. And just in regards to some suggestions, I guess, from our point of view is, look, reach out, like I mentioned before, get into your database. We know that 1 in 4 SMEs right now are very comfortable and in looking for alternative lending options out there. So, we know the emerging trend right now is that SMEs out there, it's all about everything. So restocking, rehiring, and I remember what you mentioned down here in Victoria, Leah, was about revisiting your plan A. I've really used that to go out to market with. If during COVID, obviously it's been tough, and right now in Victoria, we're seeing it very, it's going to be quite difficult again, I think, for a lot of SMEs out there. And what I say to the brokers out there, if you have got any clients that are Victorian, stay relevant. It might not be about business. Just reach out. Make sure you, show some support, because we definitely need it. So just reach out to your broker. To your database. Reach out to your BDMs on this panel, and I'm sure we can help out.
I think it's fantastic. And guys, for all intent and purpose at the moment, I do want to thank you for your time today. Obviously, with my Melburnians that are sitting on the screen at the moment, we wish you all the best for this particular lockdown, and hopefully it doesn't get extended too far out, that you go batshit crazy and we have to fix it. So guys, I do want to thank Darren from Finstro, Cami from Strive Financial, Lee from Prosper, Coop from Speedy Finance, Avi from Bluestone, because I'm not going to say his real name, and Starkey from On Deck. Guys, thanks for joining us today. I'll let you log off from there. And while you're logging off, and Cam, while you're going to go and sit back over and stand for me, we'll have a wrap up of that session and the things I just learned from BDMs, because apparently I've just learned that BDMs are alcoholics, because there was a lot of talk of alcohol in. No, just most of us that were at a whiskey bar last night.
Thanks so very much for having us, guys. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. So that is our wonderful lenders panel. Yeah, that's sweet. I'm going to ask Mr. David Carson to come and join me up on stage. He's having a lovely chat to Surinder at the back. Now, what I failed to mention, there was a 7th person that you've seen log on there, and Pete has obviously come on from behind the scenes. I'll say this quickly before he joins us. Performance reviews are due in June. My performance review in particular is due in June. So all of you need to email Peter and tell him how amazing I was today, because my performance review is due in June. And he's not here yet, so he can't hear me say, hi, Pete.
You're actually wrong with that. I can hear you.
Hi, Pete. Shit. So, gotta hate it when he turns up. How's your hotel room going, Pete?
Yeah, still a bit glary, but it's all right. Be glad to get.
Welcome to Sydney. So Peter is joining us from Sydney this morning. He is here. I am very blessed to be joined by Mr. David Carson, who was able to make it over here, because you're in Adelaide before here. So you're COVID-free-ish. Adelaide did an immediate lockdown of the border there, and you've been able to make it over. But I do have a great profile for you that we threw out the window, and we rewrote it, and I don't have the rewritten one. So I'm going to wing it. We've winged it before. So David started Compliance One in 2013 with the goal of providing practical and accurate advice to licensees about how to comply with their regulatory obligations. David also likes long walks along the beach and summer cocktails on his balcony with a few beers and the boys. Compliance One also works with a diverse group of clients ranging from finance brokers to lenders, leaseors, mortgage managers, alternative finance providers, and only one industry association being us, because it says it's in industry associations, but no, there's only one. It's us. Yep. So the primary focus of Compliance One is providing guidance to keep clients out of harm's way and jail, but also the business steps in when things go wrong, which it never does. Business doesn't go wrong. not after you've been there, before you go there, it goes wrong. And an independent expert under ASIC's enforceable undertakings. That's a really long title that goes on. Yeah, it's really shit title, but anyway, you've got 20 years experience in doing stuff. And that stuff is working within financial services, consumer credit compliance and regulation, including 10 years with ASIC. And that's why we know you're great. He's a former ASIC delegate and state manager of compliance. He's also worked as a litigation lawyer, you poor thing, and financial planner, which gives him a unique insight into how regulation and practice comes together. So Dave, thanks for joining us. I'm actually going to hand over to Mr. White. Believe it or not, I'm going to let him talk because you're all sick of me by now. So I'm going to hand over to Pete and David to do their bit. And Pete's also going to give us an industry update on where things stand at the moment with the wonderful world of SLAs and regulatory obligations and compliance and that. So Pete, thanks for joining us from Sydney. I know it's probably not the best. I know you were looking forward to coming down to Hobart and I got to steal your thunder. So I'll hand it over to you guys to open up this morning's session.
Thanks very much, Leah, and good day, everyone. Yeah, apologies for the signal here too. It's a little bit dodgy in this hotel room, so hopefully it lasts. If not, if I freeze up for a while, I'll have to leave things in the hands of Mr. Carson and with Leah. So hopefully she hasn't chewed your ears off too far so far. You and your cake get off the stage. That's what happens. So anyhow, so look, thanks for joining with us. And what I'll do is let me give you a quick snapshot on what's going on at our end. Then we'll have a talk as we're doing that in regards to some of the issues that are lying around the marketplace, and with David being a part of that conversation, of course. And then we'll open up to questions. So I really want to answer any questions that you might have. So let's progress along the line. And where is David? You there, David? I can't see you. Oh, you're over there, rightio. Okay.
Hiding behind the hand sanitizer by the look of it.
All right, no worries. I forgot you now. All righty. Let me just give you a quick snapshot of what lies ahead of us at the moment that we're still trying to resolve. So, how's everybody going with the best interest duty? Doing all right? Can't see any hands, can't hear anything. How are they going, Dave? They're doing all right with best interest duty, you think? Yeah, good. Thumbs up there from Leah. Excellent. There are a couple of issues within the best interest duty that still needs to be resolved, things that should never have happened that did. One of those are things like credit cards. Credit cards was never meant to be caught under the best interest duty. We had an agreement from government that that was going to be the case, as well as Treasury. And the way the duty should have applied is when you've got a bundled home loan, is that it should be applied to the predominant debt in the bundle. And obviously, you know, large percentage of the time, the product that's bundled in with a home loan is a credit card. So obviously the vast majority of time there would be the home loans, the predominant debt. It'd be very rare that you get a $10,000 home loan and a $90,000 credit card limit as such. So yeah, in the odd chance that happened, then you'd have to apply the duty to the credit card. But that's not what came out in ASIC's regulatory guidance, RG 273. They turned around and said you need to apply the duty to each product in the bundle, which we very strongly protest to, because that was ASIC overreaching where the law had landed as set by Treasury. And they'd taken a part of, or half of a clause within that RG and turned it into being this credit card piece, which is very much not where things are meant to land, but is what we've got to do with it. And the other piece there that ASIC has overreached on is consumer asset loans. We got notification, I think, memory serves me right, it was Friday the 18th of December at around 4:50 p.m. Not that I recall that too much. That we got an email through from ASIC's credit stakeholder team saying that if you're a mortgage broker, and remember, ASIC has defined mortgage brokers and finance brokers, not what I believe is in an appropriate manner, but they have. So they've separated the two. Mortgage brokers only do home loans, finance brokers only do consumer asset loans. Let's call them car loans for simplicity. They said, if you're a mortgage broker doing a car loan or consumer asset loan, then you've got to do it at the lowest possible rate. And if any of you are doing car loans and you have access to the structure, most of those loans are being written under what's called a flex commission structure. So you could lower the rate by lowering your commission. ASIC's guidance meant that they were expecting you to do it for zero income. I immediately wrote to ASIC as soon as I got that email on that Friday afternoon, expressing my great concern for what was being proposed and objecting to it, and a whole host of other superlatives that I thought were appropriate at the time. And I instantly got a reply from ASIC, which I thought was brilliant. It's not too often ASIC replies just like that, and they did. And the message was, out of office, I've gone on holidays. Yay for ASIC, well done, guys. They sent the email and then bolted. And I was very unimpressed with that. So I reached out to a couple of senior executives within ASIC, and we ended up having a conversation a couple of days outside of Christmas, which basically landed where there was an agreement for the position that we were taking, but nothing was going to change. So that was completely unacceptable. Through the times we've been liaising with the ABA and various other banks, we had and extended our conversations at the time on this with them, for those that did the asset finance side. And we knew there was a resolve, and the resolve was to change the structure of how commissions were paid. Basically like a home loan. Here's the rate, here's the commission, and you move on. And then obviously if there was a higher risk product for a car loan, for example, then it would come at a higher rate and possibly even a higher commission, but it'd be set by the lender. That was the answer to resolve the market angst, but we weren't going to tell ASIC that because that was just an easy out for regulators and probably politicians that were involved in the conversation as well. We want them to earn their money, not to give the answers away to them verbatim. So there was that became an ongoing challenge, and is still a challenge and an issue today. Again, and you'll hear me use this term quite regularly this morning, or this afternoon now, sorry, ASIC overreaching. We then went to the Treasurer's office and had conversations with the Treasurer to start with, and then with his Chief Policy Advisor, which then took us into conversations with Treasury, and those conversations still continue. And throughout that sort of extends through to the extension of bid, which is where our next level of concern lay when we're talking to the Treasurer and the Chief Policy Advisor, was that ASIC has now created a precedence, which they agree, it does create a precedence. But what that means is that when the extension, and assuming the extension of bid gets the nod, I mean, we're not finished on that yet, but we expect that it will go through, is that if you're a finance broker writing a car loan, consumer asset finance, you'll be expected to do it at the lowest possible rate, which means no income if it's on a flex structure, which basically means you've got no business. And that is just completely unreasonable, completely extraordinarily poor outcome and a poor position for ASIC to take. So we've objected very, very strongly against that to the Treasurer and the Treasurer's office there. And again, these are all conversations that continue, because in addition to that, we look at responsible lending obligations. And the risk here is that with what's been proposed by Treasury, whereby you have the ADIs being governed by APRA and you have the non-ADIs being governed by ASIC, that there'll become an anti-competitive market environment with a distortion taking place because of where ASIC lands on their regulatory guidance. So we've seen this overreaching by ASIC. The risk is Treasury says this is the benchmark for the ADIs, the banks, and ASIC says, well, we're going to set a benchmark up here for the non-ADIs, which would be far harder and far tougher to get a loan through. That will create market distortion and an anti-competitive environment against being able to put loans to a bank, because it'll become impossible to do a loan through a non-ADI. That will not be allowed to happen. And all these things have been boxed into the discussions with the Treasurer's office and have evolved into myself being invited to what's called the Department of the Prime Minister and Cabinet's task force. And there's two task forces for through the DPMC that we are now involved in. One is looking at overlapping regulation, and the other is regulator performance. These things are being all wrapped into that to have those discussions to do our best to see what we can do to get things put back on the track the way they should be. Whether it happens or not, it's like anything in politics, with regulators, things are difficult to change, but we've certainly brought these issues to their attention. They have accepted them as issues. Some things I know are getting traction, Others are still in the melting pot of decisions and further conversations that are going on there. And we hope to get some reasonably good outcomes for what we're doing. And at the very least, the extension of the best interest duty cannot cripple an industry, and that can never be allowed to happen. I've also had small discussions with the new small business ombudsman, who I've known from his past portfolios within politics, and we're expanding that conversation. So we've got pressure coming from all sides. And many people ask me, what are you doing with the Labor Party? Well, we're having conversations with the Labor Party as well in relationship to this, to keep pressure on government to make sure they get it right, but also to next year we've got a federal election and we want to make sure that Labor don't go off on a tangent as they did with the last federal election. They may still have a similar policy line, but hopefully we can get them to soften it. And most certainly we don't want them to go back to where they originally all started, which was trying to abolish commissions. And on that note, we have also included, we have concluded 4 pieces of externally run research to put a submission paper that young David there is going to be helping writing us for us, because David does all our regulatory writing, has done for many years. So we can go back to government and the ACCC and Council of Financial Regulators who are doing the 2022 review, plus to all the politicians and regulators that I know, and give them the research with an overlying synopsis of the documents in support of where broker commissions are today and for them not to change, which this research all supports. So that's a good thing. I know I've rabbited on a bit there, but I might ask David, does he want to add anything to those comments in regards to the best interest duty, the extension of bid and responsible lending? As Leah gave the intro, Dave has been doing our regulatory writing for, I think it's 6-7 years now. It's a bit like, you know, when you go to court, you always get a letter from a solicitor and you read and go, what the hell does that mean? When you get requests from government or from regulators, it's the same thing. David reads and writes in their language, which gives us an enormous upside when we're dealing with them and why we get a lot of traction on our conversation. It doesn't mean we get everything our own way, but they certainly do sit and listen. So David, I might just hand over to you for a few minutes to see if you've got anything else to add. And mate, if you can do me a favour, hold that mic close to your mouth, otherwise I can't hear you.
Sure. Is it working? Yes.
Yeah, beautiful.
Okay. Thanks, Pete. Yeah, so there's quite a big framework of change that's happening in the way that the consumer credit area is being regulated. And a lot of those changes directly impact brokers, the way in which they're employed in the industry and the way in which they're paid in the industry, but also the way in which they're regulated. So a lot of the work that we've really been doing is to make sure that where government has said the laws should change, the first thing we do is we look at the reasoning that's been given to government to support those changes coming through, because sometimes the reasoning is not correct. So ASIC did a review in 2017 about mortgage broker remuneration. They got some data from a wide range of industry industry participants. The data wasn't very clean, and yet ASIC still extracted information out of that and then put it up as a case to argue for changes to broker remuneration, suggesting that mortgage brokers caused customers to borrow more money. Mortgage brokers were more likely to put customers into mortgages that went into default. And they pulled all these sort of headline pieces of information out of data that information wasn't even in the data. And so we actually went back and we attacked the basis on which those conclusions were made. And then we went back to government and said, ASIC's information is not correct. So when they give that to you and say, we need to change the law because brokers are causing people to borrow more money and pushing customers into default, we need to attack that narrative before government gets it under their hat that they need to change the law and they need to change the industry. And so we do a lot of work at that front end. It's sort of trying to get in between what government's being told and getting to the truth of that. And that's where some of the geek speak writing comes in. So, you know, we'll get people give us a lot of information and we'll try and reduce that into language that politicians understand and language that responds to the way in which ASIC also writes its submissions. So what we do is we frame that up, we go back to government, we say, look, the information you've been given is not, we don't agree with the analysis, we would interpret it a different way. And then we talk to government about what the consequences of change would be if they just rush ahead and change the laws without consulting properly. So for example, you know, they were talking about moving mortgage brokers off of commission based on the fee for service, because somebody said, well, sure, it's easy enough, just get customers to pay the broker a fee. And obviously brokers get paid too much commission, and trail commission is just money for nothing. And so we had to go back and deconstruct all of those sort of things and explain to government that, you know, trail commission is really just a deferred payment of the upfronts that are higher in other countries, rather than being, you know, in Australia, you get lower upfronts with the trail. And we also had to explain really simple concepts to government around things such as, well, if I switch a customer from product A to product B, my trail starts with product B, so I don't lose my trail. And so trying to cut off trail by, you know, arguing that trail stops switching and things like that have no real basis of logic, because you say, well, I'm getting a trail commission from lender A's product. If I put a client into product B, I'm probably going to get a new upfront, and my trail is going to commence with product B. So to tell government that trail commission stops customers from switching products and stuff is just misleading. So yeah, we do a lot of that, and we do a lot of trying to put a lot of these new ideas into proper context, so government understands what it's doing before it makes changes to the law. And the next part of that is, once the changes to the law happen, they give the laws to ASIC and they say, you go off and enforce them. So ASIC doesn't write the law. They obviously have a lot of influence in what government thinks, but a bit like a policeman doesn't write the laws about road traffic. They just get given the rules and they say, you go and enforce them. So then the second bit we look at is, well, how is ASIC enforcing those laws, and is it interpreting the laws fairly? So responsible lending was a great example, where the responsible lending laws said, know your customer, know the products that you're recommending, and put a customer into a product that's not inappropriate. That was the law. And ASIC came out with 100 pages of regulatory guidance that said, you need to know when they had a job last, how long they were in that job for, when they changed jobs, where their sources of income are. You've got to look at whether that's a one-off piece of income, whether it's recurring income. You've got to know about whether they're going to change jobs in the next 16 years. In relation to their expenses, you need to understand the, you know, the full breakdown. So ASIC took 3 lines of law and turned it into 100 pages of really prescriptive guidance, and then tried to sue Westpac for not complying with its guidance. And that's where the federal court came out and said, ASIC, you're wrong. Your guidance has nothing to do with the law. The law is do these 3 things. Westpac does those things. Westpac, you're right. ASIC, you're wrong. And so that was a really important case for resetting some of the balance between regulatory overstepping and what the law says. But we've had a couple of years to get over that now, and we've had a Royal Commission, and there's been recommendations from the Royal Commission. And the fervour of, oh, well, we've got a Royal Commission that's made all these new requirements and government promising that they would implement all those changes. We're getting back into that cycle of government quickly pushing through law so it can say that it's met the Royal Commission recommendations, and ASIC then taking that law and overdoing it with the way in which it's interpreting it and applying it. So there is a bit of a backwards and forwards battle with the way in which we do this. And I think the role of the FBAA is really critically important in trying to make sure that, you know, you get balance in the way the laws are written, that they apply the way they're intended to, and then when the guidance comes out, that the guidance is fair. And so that's where Peter spends a lot of his time in planes and in Canberra and talking to the right people to try and get those messages across. Just before I hand back to Pete, this is a Q&A session as well. So if you've got any questions, feel free to ask them as we go through this. If we've jumped ahead on something and not explained the background of something, for example, this proposed split of the regulation of ADI and non-ADI lending, if there's anything like that that we've jumped ahead of and you want some clarification, feel free to ask as well. But I'm also around for lunch, so I'm happy to answer questions and have a chat. Back to you, Pete.
Thanks, David. And I guess it's an interesting point too, that when we talk about responsible lending obligations, we all know RG 209, which is all about responsible lending. Back around 2013, that was around a 34-page document. Now today, it's over 100 pages. And this is all what I call regulatory overreach. And these are problems that start off small and you think, okay, I can work with it where it is. And they just turn into these stupid exercises that are just crazy. So we don't want to see that happen with best interest duty. And so that's why we need to get around these things before they get too far in front of us. The other thing that's obviously the hot topic of conversation is SLAs and what's happening with branch turnaround times versus broker department turnaround times. And obviously that's a significant pain point for us all. And you know, this I've been on national TV last week when I was in Perth, and also I was in the week for that, we were in national print media. And this afternoon, I'll be on Sydney's Prime Drive Time channel, 2GB, talking about these things, as well as other people have been as well within their states. But we've had pressure on the banks since last year, when really the SLA blowout happened during COVID. And we're given all these great promises by the banks and the ABA as to what they were doing with technology and what they were doing with staffing numbers and so on, and the issues with their offshoring people and blah, blah, blah. But here we are still today, and the issues still are what the issues are. And it's just completely unacceptable. And this is why we've been in the media of late, trying to get mainstream media pressure on this. We are succeeding in doing that, together with keeping the pressure on the banks, a couple of the individual banks in particular, as well as the ABA, trying to get them to fast track whatever they need to do to bring these things online, as well as discussions we've been having in relation to the ACCC and whether or not we have grounds for a formal complaint for anti-competitive practices through the ACCC. Now, there are certain provisions that allows that to happen, and if the boxes don't get ticked, it doesn't work. If any of you want to talk further on that, Leah is across what we're looking at, and please be at liberty to talk to her a bit more. And if she believes there is something we can continue with, then we'll ask for the details in a confidential email to me direct, and we'll add that to the bundle of cases we're looking at to see whether or not there's a case there that can be mounted. So the whole business of, you know, the branch being able to turn around an approval in a few days, and it's still taking, you know, best part of a month, sometimes less, sometimes more, within the broker space, is just completely unacceptable, always was and always will be. We do have to take some ownership. There is very strong evidence from the banks that just around 60 or just over 60% of applications by brokers need to go back for a rework. So they're not right first time around. But what we've got to do is mitigate that pushback by the banks so that doesn't exist, and therefore the blame lies clearly on their shoulders. So it's important on all of us to make sure we get our applications right first time, and if you are, fantastic. But there are cases around the country where it's not happening in that manner, because when it goes back for rework, it comes back at the bottom of the pile. And the banks just don't seem to get in the head. You get paid lip service, but I spoke at this as an aggregators conference the other week, that you know, we've got to forget about who's processing what. There's an innocent client at the back end of this who just wants to get their loan approved. They don't give a shit whether it's a branch or whether it's a broker. Well, they care it's a broker because they've obviously come to the broker because they want the professional services. But the whole process thing is not their concern. They just want to get their loan approved and then get to settlement. So these things need to be corrected. They need to have been corrected months ago, and the pressure is on them, both within industry and within mainstream media, to get the damn thing fixed. Because I'm now getting journalists ringing me saying, we've heard about this, I'm suffering that problem, let's talk further about it live on air. We're trying to bring that level of pressure on them at the same time as trying to get them to do the right thing. So SLAs is something we are very concerned with and obviously very passionate about getting right, and we're using every angle we can use at our disposal to do it. At the end of the day, it's up to the banks. There's only so much we can do. So make sure yourselves are putting pressure on your aggregator. They're the ones who have the commercial agreements with the lender. Put the pressure on the aggregator to sort it out. I know many of them are trying to, and I know that within some of the aggregators, they are getting some tractions on that. And also, interestingly, changes in clawback, which is obviously the other pain point for our industry. So we will see, hopefully not too far away, the outflow of those considerations where clawbacks are starting to have positive conversations and becoming more reasonable. Government's not going to change where they landed, but industry has it at its own power. The lenders have it within their own power to change clawback. So that's after many years of jumping up and down and screaming at them, is starting to get some traction as well. Hey, the last little piece I want to touch on before we jump to questions is DDOs, design and distribution obligations. And David is certainly an expert on this, but I'll give you my little position on it. And I had a conversation with ASIC about a week and a half ago around this, and they confirmed that principally my generalised approach to this is correct, in that DDOs, design and distribution obligations, which is a new piece of regulation, will be coming down onto brokers, which is a pain in the neck. Yes, there's another box to tick, another thing to be concerned about. And at the moment, no, we're not getting paid more. That will come onto the agenda. Hold on to that one. That with DDOs, that it is predominantly the lender problem. Lenders have to create what's called a target market determination on every product they've got. Not that ASIC knows how to do that, mind you. David asked them the question, they said, oh, I don't know. But the lenders have to design a target market determination, a paragraph, I imagine it'll look like, as to that proves that the product being used is fit for purpose for a certain style of client. That will then push down by technology into the aggregators platform, so you'll be able to see it, so that when you're speaking to a client, you'll need to check that the DDO is in place, or sorry, the target market determination is in place, and tick a box saying, yes, it was fit for purpose. A part of your best interest duty obligation, and really, in meeting best interest duty, you meet the target market determination and the design and distribution obligations that sit around it. So that's going to come down the line, but I'm hearing in the marketplace where people are saying, oh, it's going to be a big issue for brokers and it's an enormous problem, blah, blah, blah. It's actually not. It's a tick box. It's a little bit of extra work because there's also a reporting piece if there are any issues and if there's no issues. Aggregators will solve that by tech. It's an annoyance as far as I'm concerned from our point of view. It's not an enormous burden that breaks the camel's back. But same token is a big pain in the patoosh for the lenders. That's their problem, not ours, so they can stay there. Dave, did you want to talk a bit more on DDO or not?
Yeah, I can say a little bit more. So is everyone familiar with what these design and distribution obligations are? Have you heard about them? So they're new rules that basically government introduced because ASIC had run a number of cases against companies that were making rubbish products and putting them out into the marketplace. And so the old regime under the Australian law is a disclosure-based regime. So I can hurt you as much as I like, as long as I tell you in the document how much I'm going to hurt you, because everyone knows that customers don't read that stuff. And so we had this disclosure regime, which people could put out a document that would say, you know, this is a bad product. It's not good for you. You're not going to be able to make a claim on it, but you could still sell it to that customer. So what government's come up with this idea of doing is saying, well, let's have these design and distribution obligations that say for somebody to issue a new product in the market, whether it be an insurance product or a lending product or an investment product, they have to devise a statement called a target market determination that says, this is what the product is, this is the sort of client that it's suitable for, and it might also say who it's not suitable for. So an easy example is there's no point giving income protection insurance to someone who's unemployed because they can't claim on it. So previously though, I could sell you income protection insurance even if you're unemployed because there was no obligation on me to check that you could claim on it. As long as I told you what it was for, it was up to you as the customer to work out whether it was any good for you or not. So they've reversed that position, and now they've said that the issuers of products have to tell the market what the product is and who it's designed for. And then the distributors, so we've got the design side, the distribution side is any brokers, advisors, anyone else that's actually advising customers to buy these products needs to make sure that the customer they're telling to get the product fits within the target market. So now, as an advisor, if I tell an unemployed person to take out income protection insurance, I'm liable for a fine. And so the idea was to try and cut down people buying or mis-selling insurance and sort of rubbish products. Part of that design and distribution obligation is that insurers, for example, when they issue a new product, need to give data back to ASIC about what the claim rates are. And so if an insurer issues a new product and says the claim rates are less than 10%, ASIC's going to actually have the ability to stop that product and say it's a junk product because your claim rate should be higher than that. So all the discussion around this is now you can't talk to a customer about a new mortgage product unless there is a target market determination in place. So that'll be a bank that's written a product that says this mortgage is a offset facility. Offset facilities are designed for people who want to be able to park money against the mortgage and draw down on it in the future. It's not suitable for people on very, very low repayment ability with no ability to benefit from an offset, something like that. That needs to be in place. And then when you're talking to your customers, you just need to make sure that those customers you're talking to fit within the group of people who are eligible. You can still help a customer apply if they're outside the target market, if the customer says, I really want this product, but it's an exceptions basis, not a regular basis. So all these rules are quite complex and they're very, very long, and the guidance is quite long. But as Peter said, it's a product issuer problem. They have to design better products and they have to make sure there's a statement in place for each of their products. All you guys need to do is make sure that the statement's there and that the customer's within the target market. And on that, a couple of things. So when we were talking to ASIC about its guidance, I actually asked the question in a room full of industry and ASIC, has anyone at ASIC tried to write a target market determination for a vanilla product like a credit card? No, we haven't tried to write anything. So, okay, so you've written guidance, like 50 pages of guidance about what it needs to have in it, and none of you have actually tried to write one. So tell me, who's the target market for a credit card? Anybody with a heartbeat? Who's the target market for a home loan? Somebody looking to borrow money? Or does it need to be more specific than that? And they had no idea. So we still don't have, we've got all this guidance and all this law and these $1 million penalties for doing the wrong thing, but nobody actually knows how much detail has to go into a target market determination. Again, that's an issuer problem. And one of the things that we've just been dealing with recently is that there is a reporting obligation from the distribution side that you guys need to report back to the product issuers if you've assisted significant numbers of people to deal with the product outside of the target market. So it wouldn't be one-offs, but if you found that 50% of the people you'd put into a product didn't fit the target market, you've got to go back to the issuer and tell them that, because then the issuer needs to go, well, have we got our target market determination wrong? Or do we need to take action against this business for mis-selling our product? The issue is that what they've decided at the moment is that possibly the way in which you're going to report whether or not there has been somebody that's dealt outside the target market is by reporting on a regular basis of the number of people who have dealt outside the target market. And for 99% of people, it's going to be zero. So what we're trying to do is say, don't have a positive reporting obligation every 3 months to go back to every product issuer and go, no dealings, no dealings. Have an exceptions reporting basis where you actually have to go and tell them when you find one where it's been outside the target market. Makes much more sense, easier regulation for everybody. And if you do the wrong thing and you don't tell the issuer and you get found out, you're going to get penalised just about out of business anyway. So there's no point in having a positive reporting regime. So that's the work that we're doing on that piece, is to try and say to government, smarten up, ASIC, smarten up, have a negative reporting regime, and let's just get on with it and make it what it is. Simple thing, but just enormously complex in its execution.
Yeah. The other thing there on the reporting, don't get stressed over it. Every aggregator I've spoken to are going to make it a very simple process online through their CRM. So don't think it's going to be, how am I going to deal with this? Your aggregators are actually working on a very simple process to get the feedback, and then they'll aggregate it back to the lenders.
It may still end up just a checkbox. It could be positive reporting, but a checkbox. Yeah.
So I'm just going to cut in on you two. We do have a question from the crowd because Pete, you can't see it at the moment. So just bear with us. I'll just get you to say your name for me, or you can stay completely anonymous. It's up to you, but I can see who you work for.
And I'm scared of Leah. Adrian from Smart Mortgages. What you've been describing seems to fall down on the side of responsible lending. And we seem to be hearing that we're pushing back or going back to more of a responsible borrowing paradigm. If we say that the reason for bringing that in is because people don't read the small print, we can't argue that we're giving responsible borrowers more information to work with because they don't read it. So why are we getting mixed messages? It seems if we're getting more and more compliance on the responsible lending side of things, Are we genuinely moving back to responsible borrowing?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. So responsible lending, you're right, is very much a disclosure-based approach, right? It doesn't really matter what the customer tells you. You've got to do your own forensic examination to find the true truth and then rely on that when you're making your recommendation. There has been push for responsible borrowing to say that customers need to be more accountable for what they tell people. I personally believe that there needs to be much higher levels of accountability for what customers tell you. If a customer misleads a broker or misleads a lender, there are penalties that apply under the credit legislation, but I've never seen them applied. And one of the penalties is you're excluded from compensation. So if I've lied to you in my application and then I can't service my loan, and had I had that truth of the application been known, the answer would have been different, then don't cry foul and then expect compensation. The law already says that that can happen. I've never seen it applied. So I would very much like a responsible borrower code, and I'd like to see the balance evened out to make people more accountable for what they say. And a lot of work that I do involves looking at files where we're trying to determine the truth of the information in that file. And, you know, quite often you'll see that customers mislead. And of course, a lot of people will say, oh, that's just because they misunderstood the question or they generalized or whatever else. But personally, you know, I know how many children I've got. And if you ask me 7 days a week, I'll tell you the same number. Not every applicant does, which is a surprise. But the idea of a responsible borrower code does go down that disclosure path again, and it requires people to engage with the information and understand it. And what I see where we're going at the moment is we're actually reducing the obligation on borrowers, and we're moving out of that thing about, well, read the product document and understand it. Investment side, very much. We used to have the open market. Any client could invest in any product once they'd read the product disclosure statement. And we're now going down that pathway of saying that product is too complex for you and it doesn't matter what you read, you'll never be able to invest in it. So I think where we're going at the moment in credit is relieving borrowers of more responsibility. And to do that, we're putting more obligations on product issuers to make better quality products, and more pressure on brokers to do more forensic examination and create better notes to prove that they did the right thing. And that's what best interest duty does. It requires you to create better records so that anybody can pick up your file and see what you did, not rather than just whether the outcome was responsible or not. So I would say at the moment, we're not going towards a responsible borrower code as much as I'd like it to. And we are still very much in a situation where disclosure is still a big basis of what we do, but regulators recognize that disclosure is largely ineffective. And so what they're looking to do is just put more obligation on product issuers and service providers. So that's why we're seeing the obligations on industry sort of ratchet up and become a bit more complex.
So Dave, we do talk about detailed record keeping, but how much detail is ASIC wanting in that detail?
Yeah, again, it's not prescriptive, but the best interest duty guidance is already over 50 pages in its first version. The best interest duty is one sentence in the law. When acting in connection with a home loan, mortgage brokers must act in the best interest of the client. That's it. One sentence. And ASIC says, right, 50 pages of guidance that should help you work out what that sentence means. And what they've done is they've come out and they said, you know, we expect to see these things in your file notes. So that is, we expect to see a full analysis of the customer so that you really know who the customer is, which you already do. If there's availability of government schemes, have you explored whether the customer would benefit from accessing one of those schemes? Now, again, you might already do that, but you might just move on if the customer's not eligible. ASIC now expects to see that you've interrogated that and made a record of it, because they might pick up the file later on and look, and if they can't see whether you interrogated that, they might tell you didn't do it. So where's your record to show that you did, unless you've created it? And so the best interest duty guidance goes through a whole a range of areas where ASIC expects to see your notes of the things that you thought about before talking to the client about, or the customer about a product. But generally what I say is this: for a lot of brokers, they've already been doing pretty well everything the best interest duty requires. So you do know your customers, you know the products that you recommend, and you recommend to the customer the product that's going to best suit them. And it's not a best product duty, it's a best interest duty, and there will be more than one product that fits the brief. So generally speaking, brokers do that already. All ASIC at this stage really is doing with its best interest duty guidance is it wants to see the full story. So when it picks up a file, it wants to know who the client was, what questions you asked, if any of the information you got was a bit incomplete, that you interrogated that, you got more information from the client. They want to know what products you looked at and considered so that you're aware of the marketplace, and they want to see the recommendation that you made and the product that the client ended up in. Some of the old files I used to look at, you couldn't actually work out where people went because there'd be a broker notes of who the client was. They put off an application, but you wouldn't actually see the confirmation of the deal come back and be on the file. So you'd be like, oh, also, yeah, I can see here that you were going to recommend that the client apply for a CBA mortgage for 500. Where'd they end up? Oh, they got 600 from Westpac. Right. Well, you know, how do I know that from the file? So that's what BID is doing. It's saying we want a story. We want the full story, who the client is, what products you thought about, what product you recommended, what product the client ended up in, and it should all marry up.
Perfect. Pete, did you want to add anything into before?
Yeah, no, it's just, I could try and remember what it was now.
We call that a seniors moment.
Yeah, I know. That's what happens with you. I guess on the piece we're talking about at the moment, there was a fairly predominant aggregator go through, at their request, the rigor with ASIC prior to the end of last year, because they'd already implemented their best interest duty through their network, just to see how they were going. And they have very comprehensive systems. They were doing, as far as I could see, going along and probably above what was necessary. And after the review by ASIC, ASIC turned around and said, you can do more. So if anything I can say is don't be complacent with this. Make sure your notes are comprehensive. David's bang on in what he's saying. And remember, David used to be in enforcement in ASIC, so he knows what this is like. And he's currently working with broker clients in this industry who are looking at their files and trying to work these things out. So, it's very important that we don't be complacent with this. And at the end of the day, also make sure you're listening to your aggregator, your ACL. They have legal responsibility in this as well, and you need to be acting in accordance with their guidance. But if you think they're a bit light on, then you make sure you go further, because it's your butt they're coming for first.
Awesome. I've got another question from the audience for you.
Hi, Peter and David. Toby from Urban Money. My question here is around the consumer automotive. We sort of say that we've got to reduce, well, we have to reduce the interest rate down to as low as possible. Is that then a part of ASIC's guidance, or is that actually law when we was talking about those two differences?
Yeah, it's ASIC's guidance at the moment, sorry, Dave. And it's all, if we're talking the motor finance industry, it's a part of the extension of BID for those that are categorised as finance brokers. That's not in yet. But I dare say, it together with the bundling of the changes in responsible lending will probably go through, even though there's still strong opposition by the Labor Party and the consumer advocates for it not to happen. At the end of the day, though, the lenders are moving on this. So I actually see the industry will be fine. But this is an ASIC regulatory guidance piece. It's not the legislation. Dave, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, just on the status of that, I checked on it the other day. It's had its second reading in Senate, so it's close. It's gone through House of Reps and Senate. So yeah, it does look close. It actually isn't even in guidance. It was a question and answer forum that ASIC spat out on the 23rd of December before going on holidays. It was in response to a question that had been put to a very mid-level ASIC employee who just put it in an answer to a question. And the question was, under flex commission, so in asset finance where there is flexible rate, in order to comply with the best interest duty, what is it, how does a broker comply with best interest duty with the flex commission? And the question and answer response was, it is our view that a broker would need to get the lowest rate possible for the client in order to meet the best interest duty. Now that's not in the guidance and it's absolutely not in the law, but then acting in the best interest of the client is a subjective thing anyway. So it's one of those obligations which, you know, when it happens, you can see that it's been done. When it hasn't happened badly, you can see that it hasn't been done. But all the 99% of grey in the middle, which is where we operate on a daily basis, it's not as clear. My view is that there needs to be a lot more very robust discussion about that idea, about brokers being obligated to discount the rate to the minimum cost possible to the client, because it doesn't, that notion doesn't translate across any other industry. So if you go and buy a bag of rice from Woolworths, Woolworths doesn't put a sign on the shelf that says, hey, we bought this bag of rice for $3. We're selling it to you for $8. But by the way, we could probably sell it for $5 and still make a profit. That's not the way offer and acceptance and normal economics works, right? If you've got a product and the product is 5%, if a customer wants it, they can buy it. If they want cheaper, they can shop around and get cheaper. And so I think it's not quite as clear with finance as it is with retail, because there is it's harder for customers to understand pricing and things like that. And clearly in the mortgage space, small differences in the market when the percentage rate can have a big impact in the amount of money that people pay over time. But at the moment, that mentality of you've got to get maximum discount would mean that everybody has to cut their own throat to comply with the best interest duty. And I would argue that you can't, if you can't remain viable in a business, you can't act in the best interest of anybody. And therefore there needs to be some sensible ground. And we thought we'd found that by working with government to allow a 2% flex margin, right? Because originally they said, that's it, flex commission's going to get banned. And we did a bucket load of work in 2017, 2018, saying, well, you know, rate discounting is a part of normal life. And in consumer asset finance, deals are priced more nuanced than a mortgage. You've got, you know, mortgage rates are published and they're fixed and they're applied to everybody. Whereas consumer asset finance is more nuanced and it's individually priced. So we worked with government to get, and ASIC to get to a point where they recognised that you could discount because customers benefited from that, but you couldn't flex up because customers were harmed by that. And we thought we had a regime where you had a 2% maximum flex and that you could work that flex based on your margins and what you wanted to get paid for a deal. And that was what we've got in place. And ASIC's just come in with a Q&A at the end of last year and decided they're going to upset that entirely.
So if we then move to each lender decides their own rate and then we get paid a commission from it, then are we removing, again, we're removing a little bit of that anti-competitive behaviour, especially when it comes to car yards, etc. as well, in what their offerings and with the Toyota finance, the point of sale financing that they're actually doing. So there's obviously no real right answer for this at the moment in that section.
Yeah, well, so one of the solutions obviously is that you just end up with the lender rate. So every lender's got a rate. Another option might be that you go through an intermediary that you can't negotiate the rate with the intermediary, but the intermediary might be able to negotiate or do something with the rate with the lender to get a deal over the line. So that's one of the ways that it might end up working out. But then the industry needs to restructure to accommodate that. And we already restructured to accommodate flex commission. So yeah, I think again, it's a case of someone at ASIC thought it would, yeah, naturally the cheapest price must be best for the customer. We're a customer organization. So yeah, let's just do that without thinking about, well, how does that work in real life? And of course, product issuers, the banks, they're not subject to a best interest duty. So if their cost of funds is 0.5 and they want to sell it at 5 and a customer walks in the front door and says, I'll have that, they don't have to go, well, hang on a sec, you could go down the road and get a better deal. But brokers are expected to do that and facing fines of up to $5 million if they don't. So it's a pretty stark contrast between the obligations that fall on the people who have the most control over what the rates that they set and those who merely help people find a product and apply for it. And yet, you know, the guys that are issuing the products and setting the rates and making the biggest margins are the ones that are under the least obligation to respond to customer demands and this notion of fairness and all that. But yeah, it's a really interesting marketplace at the moment, but we're certainly raising all of these inequalities on a regular basis to just try and get government to see this as a holistic package and understand.
So a question that's obviously been asked throughout the tour as well, for the people in the room that don't do anything in the consumer space, is there anything that they should be aware of that could potentially get them in trouble with ASIC?
Yeah, definitely. So first, government has said many, many times that business lending is not going to get caught by consumer regime. And I think that they will honour that. So from a legislative point of view, I don't think Parliament's going to make more laws relating to business lending. But the presumption of every deal that you do is it's consumer unless it's proven otherwise. So for people who do purely business, you know, your records need to definitively show that this was a business deal. We used to have business purpose declarations that were proof of a business deal under the old code. Under the new NCCP law, a business purpose declaration is an indication, but you still need other information sitting around that to prove that it was a business deal. So I've done a compensation program recently, which ran into the millions of dollars, where it was a business lender doing only business finance. They required customers to have an ABN. They used brokers to submit deals. Some of the brokers got a bit colourful with the descriptions about the intended use of the funds. Had a lot of customers, like consumer customers, who just had an ABN getting put up for business finance. They got in trouble because their files didn't show what other inquiries had been made to be satisfied that the customers were actual business customers. So just having an ABN is not enough. What you're really looking for is you want something in the customer's own words about what their intended use of the funds is. That's really critical. And that was really critical in the job that I've just done. If a customer contacted the lender and said, yes, I want the finance because I'm opening up a gym and I need it for X, then I'm okay with that because the customer has actually made that representation. But if a customer just wants finance and the broker has told the lender what the customer's going to do with the money, and then you ask the customer and they're like, I've never worked in a gym in my life, I was just going to buy a car and drive to the shop, then it's different. So get something from the customers in their own words. I still think a business purpose declaration is influential and should be on file. Again, that's just another statement by the customer that they're doing it for business. So yeah, evidence of business use, statement from the customer, business purpose declaration, any other information you can get. But yeah, if a deal doesn't have enough information on paper in your file, it is a consumer deal, unless you can prove otherwise.
So folks, does anybody have any other questions I'd like to ask Peter or David this afternoon? Surinder's waving to the room. No questions. Look at that. I think you guys have covered off some pretty good stuff.
To say goodbye. He's off to the
He's
airport.
yeah, he's got to run to the airport, poor Surinder. They've got to let him, I think they're letting him into Sydney now. So Peter, he's coming up your way.
Have I talked too much?
Yeah, no, that's all right. I think there's some great answers to a lot of questions today, and the best interest student responsible lending is going to be a fuzzy grey area, I think, for a while to come. So if you do have any questions, by all means, you can send them through myself. You can send them directly to Peter, although he's not here today and I'm not traveling with any of his cards at the moment. If you'd like to get Pete's email address, he's got one of the simple ones at head office. It's just pwhite@fbaa.com.au. Mine is probably the more simplistic one. It is obviously my first name being leah@fbaa.com.au, and we will forward them on to David on your behalf. David also does, as we said, runs a company called Compliance One. So if you do have any compliance needs, you can contact David as well. And I'm sure he'll be more than happy to let you know about his services and what he can provide for your businesses as well. So Mr. White, from us down here in the wonderful world of Tassie, and I'm looking at my cape for the first time on screen going, Jesus, that's pink. I will let you go. Have fun up in Old Sydney town, and I believe I will see you on the Gold Coast at some point if next week.
No worries. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Pete.
Yeah.
And Mr. Carson, for you for making it all the way over from Adelaide for us, and I have the pleasure of your company flying all the way back to Brisbane. I will see you shortly, but if you guys can put your hands together for David joining us from Adelaide, from Compliance One. And the good news is it's the first state that I've managed to actually run over time in. Thank you, Tasmania. But guys, from where we sit now, we've got a couple of quick slides up on the screen. We've got Q&A with Whitey coming up with our wonderful team from Lendy. They'll be going through some new tech products that are coming out to hit the industry at the moment. Some pretty cool and funky stuff there. You've got my favorite baby that's next to it, and the reason I've been running around in a cape, not because I like it and I don't really like fancy dress, but it's part of our uniform at the moment. So I have a Superman shirt on and my cape on. Business in a New World is the FBAA National Conference, and underneath it you can see Heroes and Villains as the gala dinner. It is optional fancy dress for you, our wonderful brokers. However, for our wonderful BDMs, it's not. It's mandatory fancy dress for the BDMs, God help us all. There's not enough lycra that can get me enough therapy to get through that night. But we are headed to Movie World for the Heroes and Villains theme. There is a COVID safe plan in place for the national conference should any states go into lockdown. And if Melbourne go into lockdown, we just don't care. We just cut them out of the conference altogether. So we'd love to see you guys head up there. And with all the airline carriers and with SeaWorld, there are COVID plans in place for them. So should it need to be cancelled, or should we say not cancelled, but postponed, we will reset another date. So there is already a plan B that sits behind it within 90 days. And that will hopefully get us to the conference. We have a permit to go to 1,000 people. So it's kind of cool that Palaszczuk did something right up in Queensland for once. And we've got a permit to go to 1,000 for the conference. We are expecting 500 to the gala dinner. So it will be the largest industry event back. But a lot of COVID safe plans in place. It's been the bane of my existence for about 6 months now. So guys, that is the two babies up there. As I said, everything is available on the FBAA's new website. If you haven't changed your password already, please go online and do so. It is critical to us that you do it, otherwise you can't access the members area. Every Tuesday, you will see the new newsletter that comes out. So that's based on the survey feedback that you guys gave us last year that we were spamming you too much, and that's okay, we understand. So now we'll just spam you on a Tuesday instead. And that'll give you the update as to where we're at, what Pete's out and about working on at the moment with government and also several of the aggregators and also the ABA. What he said I could drop the bombshell on is with channel conflict, there's no certain way of saying it. If we get enough people that will come behind us and stand with us, we will be investigating taking a class action against the banks. So you guys heard it here first. There is the potential there. So we've already spoken to our lawyers about it, and our lawyers do believe that there is a case there to be had. So we need the feedback directly from you guys to be able to take that forward. And we're up for the challenge. This is the biggest thing. Like, we're not going to stand down to the banks and have them say that we can't take the bull by the horns. We want to take the bull by the horns because it's not fair for you guys. So by all means, as Pete said, feel free to email him directly, or you can email myself. If there's just a scenario you want to bounce off me, let me know. This is probably one of my biggest projects of this year as well. So I'm always up for a good battle, for better words, a good fight with banks. And don't be afraid to do it. We're not going back to the banks or any aggregators to go, hey, Bill Smith came to me and said that this and this is happening. This is between you and us, and it's up to us to take it forward. The other thing I've got to add from an internal perspective from us with our internal dispute scheme at the moment, if it's an inkling from your aggregators that you're going to get in some form of compliance trouble, please come to us first. Don't leave it until the 11th hour until you get in trouble and then you get into a panic about how to fix it. We've got a couple of brokers at the moment that have been slapped in the last few weeks. Just make sure that you're ahead of things happening like that. So many people sweep it under the carpet and go, it's okay, it's not going to happen to me, or it's all too hard. By the time it gets to the all too hard point, it's all too hard for us to step in and try and help to fix it. And this is why we have the likes of people like David sitting behind us as well. So please tell us before it's too late. Lunch is up the back. I'm getting off the microphone because I'm sick of my own voice today. It's been great coming down here, guys. Thank you for having us. I did remiss on one thing though. You do have a counsellor in the room, which is Miss Kirsty Dunphy. So if you need anything in Tassie, she's your local rep. When I say local, I'm going to go to the extent of Launceston way. But she's based here in Tasmania. So if you need anything at all, she's the one to touch. David's